At night, the ocean doesn't roar, it whispers. Between the sleeping corals, small feet touch the sand, and a quiet spark glows under the waves. Tiny claws click like stars being born, and the water hums with ancient calm. In these depths, power is measured not by size, but by patience, by those who build, heal, and shine without a sound. Tonight, let the sea's smallest architects guide you. Each click, each shimmer, is a lullaby of salt and light, carrying you slowly towards sleep. They call it the mantis shrimp. But that name is deceptive. It is not a shrimp nor a mantis. It is something in between. A creature forged in the deep silence where light bends and pressure sings. In the dim corridors of coral reefs, it waits, still as glass, its body armoured in colours that don't seem real. Jade, sapphire, coral red, and flashes of electric orange that shimmer like forged metal. This is no ordinary crustacean. It is a warrior, a mathematician of violence, a master of patience. When it strikes, it moves faster than the human eye can track, up to 80 kilometers per hour, its club-like claws accelerating with the force of a bullet. The blow is so fast it tears the water apart, creating a cavitation bubble that collapses in a burst of heat and light, a miniature explosion, hotter than the surface of the sun for a fraction of a second. That's not poetry, it's physics. Each punch sends out a shockwave powerful enough to shatter glass aquariums, break snail shells, and stun nearby fish before the real hit even lands. And yet it is not chaos, the mantis shrimp calculates. It measures the distance to its prey with eyes that can see colours invisible to us. 16 types of photoreceptor cells, where humans have only 3. It perceives ultraviolet light, circular polarization, and subtle shifts in hue that no camera or instrument can yet reproduce. To the mantis shrimp, the world is a prism, layered, spinning, complex. It doesn't just see a coral reef, it sees the language of light itself. Its eyes move independently, like 2 small satellites orbiting a thought. Each can track depth, form, and movement on its own. But together they form a symphony of perception. When a predator approaches, the shrimp turns slightly, adjusts the focus of one eye, and waits for the moment when the world aligns. Then, snap. A sound like the breaking of a bone echoes through the reef. Then silence returns, as if nothing happened. The mantis shrimp's home is a burrow carved carefully into sand or coral, a tunnel reinforced by crushed shells and bits of stone. It spends most of its life here, solitary, guarding its entrance with the discipline of a monk and the temper of a god. Intruders are not tolerated. If another mantis shrimp wanders too close, they will spar, claws flashing, bodies coiling like springs. Their blows are controlled, ritualistic, almost, as though even war among them must be conducted with precision. Scientists have studied their limbs, trying to understand how something so small can generate so much force without destroying itself. The secret lies in the helical structure of the dactyl club, a natural composite stronger than any material yet engineered by humans. It absorbs shock, redistributes stress, and flexes in microseconds. It's a biological marvel, a piece of evolutionary armour millions of years in the making. Engineers studying this structure have used it to design better body armour, aircraft materials, and protective coatings. From a creature no longer than your hand, we learn how to survive impact. But the mantis shrimp is not only about destruction. In the quiet hours of dawn, you can see it grooming its shell, turning pebbles over, cleaning its burrow. It has been observed recognizing its neighbours, remembering faces, and even developing rituals of greeting. A flick of antennae, a measured retreat, an understanding that in this small patch of sand, 2 warriors may coexist, for now. Its behaviour is complex, almost paradoxical. It kills with fire and light, yet tends its home with care. It sees beyond the visible, yet lives buried in darkness. Its body is armour, but its eyes, delicate, sensitive, endlessly searching, betray a kind of quiet intelligence that feels closer to meditation than violence. Divers who've seen them describe something strange. When a mantis shrimp looks at you, it feels like being seen through. Its gaze doesn't wander. It focuses, curious, deliberate, as if evaluating what kind of light you carry inside, and then it slips back into its tunnel, gone before your heart has slowed down. In the ancient rhythm of the sea, this creature has no rival. It is a solitary being, and solitude makes it sacred. It does not travel in groups. It does not migrate. It stays where it was born, a small territory of sand and coral, defending it not for hunger, but for order. It is both the builder and the destroyer of its small world. Sometimes, in aquariums, when night falls and the human lights go dim, keepers hear faint clicks from the water tanks. Soft, rhythmic. The sound of the mantis shrimp striking at the glass walls of its captivity. It is not aggression. It is memory. A reminder that somewhere in the dark ocean there is a tunnel, a home, and a reef it still remembers. If you listen carefully, it sounds almost like tapping on a drum from far away, a heartbeat in the sand, the ocean breathing through claws, power in miniature, patience made flesh. And when you close your eyes tonight, imagine it, a creature no longer than your hand, wrapped in shifting light, crouched in silence, waiting for dawn. When the sun filters through the water, it raises its claws, not in violence, but in certainty. The world outside is vast, but in its burrow it has found purpose. It will clean, it will guard, it will strike when it must. That's how the mantis shrimp survives, not through strength, but through understanding. It knows when to wait, when to move, and when to disappear. Each breath it takes stirs a small cloud of sand. Each movement writes another line in the poetry of the ocean floor. Listen closely. Somewhere beneath the waves, a small sound echoes. Tock, tock, tock. That's not danger. That's the sea remembering its heartbeat. If the mantis shrimp is the hammer of the ocean, the pistol shrimp is its gun. No larger than your thumb, this unassuming creature carries within its claw a weapon so powerful it can kill with sound. Yet when you first see it, drifting gently through a coral tunnel, it looks fragile, translucent shell, eyes like tiny beads, antennae trembling with the pulse of the tide. It hides behind pebbles, its body barely moving, but one claw, oversized, asymmetrical, built like a musket, gleams with quiet promise. This claw is no ordinary tool. When it snaps shut, the pressure inside the joint becomes immense, releasing a bubble that collapses faster than the blink of an eye. That collapse generates a sound of 210 decibels, louder than a gunshot, louder even than a rocket launch, though it lasts for less than a millisecond. In that instant, the collapsing bubble releases heat comparable to the surface of the sun, 4,700 degrees Celsius. The energy stuns or kills small prey, fish, worms, other crustaceans, in the blink of an eye. And all this comes from a creature barely 5 centimeters long. To the untrained ear, it sounds like static underwater, a faint crackling noise, like frying oil or rain on a tin roof. But to those who dive at night near coral reefs, the clicking chorus of pistol shrimps becomes hypnotic. It is the soundtrack of the ocean floor, a billion small explosions all at once overlapping and fading. Each click is a spark of life, hunting, defending, communicating. But what makes this shrimp truly special isn't its violence, it's its partnership. The pistol shrimp is one of nature's great collaborators. It forms a symbiotic bond with a small fish known as the goby. The shrimp, nearly blind, has poor vision. The goby, small and quick, has sharp eyes. Together they create a partnership as old as coral itself. The shrimp digs the burrow, maintaining and expanding the tunnels beneath the sand, while the goby stands guard at the entrance, fins fluttering in coded signals. When danger approaches, a moray eel, a crab, or a passing predator, the goby twitches its tail against the shrimp's antenna. Instantly the shrimp freezes. A second tap means retreat, and the shrimp backs into the tunnel. When the coast is clear, the goby relaxes its body, and the shrimp resumes digging, snapping its claw occasionally to warn intruders or catch food. No words, no sound, only gestures and trust. In this fragile alliance, they both survive. Scientists call it tactile communication, but in truth, it is more than that. It's intimacy. Two species sharing one life, built on touch. The shrimp can't see the world, but it feels it through the goby's signals. The goby has no home, but it finds one in the shrimp's tunnel. They are opposites made whole, a pair surviving where alone each would perish. At dawn, when sunlight pierces the water and dances on the sand, you can see the shrimp at work. It emerges halfway from its burrow, pushing sand grains with delicate precision. Each movement is careful, deliberate, one claw sculpting the seabed like a mason laying stones. Tiny air bubbles trail upward from the tunnel's mouth, marking where life continues beneath. And beside it, the goby floats like a guardian angel, eyes scanning the horizon, tail flicking in subtle rhythm. Sometimes, when other shrimps invade their territory, the pistol shrimp doesn't hesitate. It raises its weapon, aims and fires, a flash of light, a shock wave, a death in silence. But it never wastes a shot. It fires only when necessary. Even underwater, energy is precious. Every bang must count. Divers who record these shrimps describe the sound as strangely human. Not mechanical, not random, but patterned. When hundreds of pistol shrimps gather near a reef, the result is a symphony of microscopic thunder. The ocean hums, the coral glows faintly under the sonic pressure, and fish swim cautiously through the invisible storm. It's chaos, but it feels alive, as though the sea itself were breathing through electricity. Marine biologists have long wondered why pistol shrimps click, even when they're not hunting. Some believe it's a form of territory marking, acoustic walls that tell others, this place is taken. Others suspect communication, a code of rhythm and timing that we still can't decipher. Whatever the reason, the pistol shrimp has turned sound into architecture, shaping the ocean not with stone or coral, but with vibration. Its anatomy reveals a delicate balance of engineering and evolution. The pistol claw is divided into two parts, the hammer, the plunger, and the socket, the groove. When the hammer locks into place, the shrimp's muscles tense, storing energy like a coiled spring. Then, with a microscopic release, the hammer snaps shut, launching a jet of water that forms the cavitation bubble. The entire process takes less than a millisecond, yet within that instant temperature, light and sound converge. It is a weapon crafted by time itself, and yet the pistol shrimp is not cruel. In the darkness, it works tirelessly, clearing sand from its burrow, maintaining the tunnels and caring for its eggs. When the larvae hatch, they drift upward into the plankton, translucent, drifting through moonlight, carried by gentle currents until they find their own patch of seabed to claim. Somewhere, miles away, another tiny click begins again. There's a quiet irony in it all. We humans build machines to mimic destruction, to amplify noise, to shatter silence. But this creature, smaller than our palm, uses the same energy to build, to protect, to cooperate, to survive. Its sound is not rage, it's rhythm. The rhythm of living underwater. If you ever listen to a hydrophone recording of the ocean floor, you might hear it. A constant crackle. Like a fireplace in winter, or rain on a tin roof. That's not static, that's life. Billions of pistol shrimps firing their claws in unison, creating an ambient world of micro-explosions, a living heartbeat of the sea. The next time you close your eyes and hear rain outside your window, imagine it isn't rain at all, but pistol shrimps beneath coral gardens, keeping the world awake with sound. Each click is a note in their song. Each note says the same thing. I'm here, I'm alive, I'm working. In a way, that's all any creature ever wants to say. And somewhere, in a shallow lagoon under the stars, a pistol shrimp and a goby are still at it. One digging, one guarding. Together they hold back the tide. Together they turn sound into survival. If you put your ear to the water and listen closely enough, you might hear it too. Click. Then another, a constellation of tiny stars bursting beneath the waves, 1,000 little worlds calling out in code. That is the ocean's gunfire, not of war, but of creation. And its echo may be the gentlest sound you'll ever fall asleep to. Among the coral towers where sunlight drips like honey, there lives a creature dressed as if the sea itself wanted to dream in colour. The peacock mantis shrimp, Odontodactylus ciliarus, glows like a living jewel box. Emerald, turquoise, crimson, gold. Each scale seems lit from within, as if molten glass had learned to breathe. Divers say that when it moves, the light bends differently around it, like heat shimmering on desert sand. But beneath that beauty hides one of the most complex and lethal beings in the ocean. The peacock mantis shrimp is both painter and warrior. It does not simply exist, it performs. When defending its burrow or seducing a mate, it spreads its raptorial appendages wide, twin clubs that glisten with metallic sheen. It sways, rotates, and flashes patterns of colour, as if performing a secret ritual known only to itself and the water that surrounds it. This dance is not decoration, it's declaration, a way to signal dominance, health, or love without spilling blood. Yet when provoked, that same grace transforms into terrifying precision. The clubs strike with the speed of a bullet, capable of cracking open shells or slicing through carapace like paper. The impact is so fast it produces light, sonoluminescence, the brief birth of photons from collapsing bubbles. For a fraction of a heartbeat, it creates a spark underwater, a pulse of brightness in liquid darkness. It is as if each strike writes its own thunderstorm in miniature. And yet, this power is not chaos. Every movement is measured, rehearsed, calculated. A peacock mantis shrimp's life is a choreography of aggression and restraint. It strikes only when the timing is perfect, guided by its unmatched vision. Its eyes, perched on stalks that swivel independently, are masterpieces of nature's engineering. Each eye has 3 regions of focus and can detect polarized light and ultraviolet wavelengths. It can see circular polarization, something no human eye can perceive. That means the peacock mantis shrimp can detect the difference between light twisted clockwise or counterclockwise, revealing patterns hidden in the reflective armor of other creatures. Some scientists believe it uses this vision to recognize members of its own species, to find mates, or to detect the shimmer of predators lurking under sand. To us the reef is colorful, to it the reef is a symphony of coded light, each hue a different note, each flicker a secret message. Its world is painted in wavelengths beyond imagination. Where we see blue, it sees blue split into 1,000 shades of motion. Where we see darkness, it sees whispers of ultraviolet dancing like dust. Its perception is so precise that even our finest cameras cannot replicate what it sees, because what it sees isn't simply colour, but structure. The peacock mantis shrimp reads the texture of light itself. It's no wonder, then, that when it looks at you, divers say it feels as though the ocean itself were staring back. Calm, ancient, aware. The peacock mantis shrimp's burrow lies hidden in the sand, a fortress with 2 entrances, one for escape and one for ambush. Inside, the creature waits, tending to its lair like a jeweller maintaining a safe. It arranges small stones at the entrance, sealing it at night with bits of coral, then resting within, antennae flicking softly to sense vibrations. In the morning, it pushes the stones aside, peers into the world, and resumes its rituals, hunting, cleaning, guarding, displaying. Sometimes 2 of them meet at the border of their territories. What follows is one of the most extraordinary duels in nature. They raise their claws, displaying their iridescent colours in rhythmic patterns. The ocean around them becomes a silent arena of light. No noise, no blood, just brightness, pure and controlled. If one yields, it retreats into shadow. If not, the fight turns real. Clubs clash, bubbles flash, the water trembles, and then, just as quickly as it began, it ends. One remains, battered but victorious. The other disappears. The sand settles. The reef breathes again. It's easy to mistake the peacock mantis shrimp for a creature of fury, but in truth it's a being of balance, of art and precision, of beauty and destruction. Every colour on its armour serves a purpose: warning, attraction, deception. The bright green shields the body among corals, the red distracts predators. The speckles along its carapace scatter light to blur its shape. It is the perfect illusion, visible yet invisible, soft yet indestructible. Somewhere along the reefs of Indonesia and the Philippines, where the water glows aquamarine and the sand hums with life, this shrimp continues its ancient play. Scientists studying it have borrowed its secrets, not only for vision but for materials. The structure of its clubs has inspired new impact-resistant composites, used in aerospace design and body armour. The way its eyes process colour has influenced camera sensor technology. A creature no larger than your hand, yet its anatomy whispers to our laboratories how to build better, stronger, clearer. At night, when the reef falls into quiet, you might find one standing outside its burrow, half its body in shadow. Its shell reflects the faint moonlight filtering through the surface. Small plankton drift by like stars. The mantis shrimp watches, antennae waving slowly, as if conducting an invisible orchestra. Each movement seems deliberate, each stillness part of a plan. It doesn't fear the darkness, it paints within it. There's something strangely human about that. To hold violence and beauty in the same body. To live alone, yet create a world that shimmers. To build a life not by avoiding conflict, but by learning how to strike only when necessary. If you could hear the reef, you would know when one is nearby. The faint clicks and the deeper thock of its strikes echo like soft percussion beneath the waves. Tiny pulses of light flash with each attack, lightning without thunder, and then, just as suddenly everything goes still. The silence is not empty, it's reverence. The sea pauses to listen to the creature that learned how to wield colour like a sword. As dawn approaches, the peacock mantis shrimp retreats to its tunnel, rolling pebbles to seal the entrance. The water above glows in ribbons of gold. It folds its claws beneath its chest, weapons now at rest. Even in stillness it radiates. Even in sleep it seems awake. Because this is what the ocean teaches through its smallest warriors, that beauty and danger are not enemies. They are reflections of the same light. So when you close your eyes tonight and hear the soft rhythm of your breath, imagine the shimmer of a mantis shrimp moving through coral. Each colour, each flash, each small breath beneath the sea, a reminder that somewhere far below life dances even in silence. There is a kind of thunder that doesn't come from clouds. It crawls beneath the sand, invisible, striped, and waiting. The tiger pistol shrimp wears the pattern of a Bengal tiger, black and orange bands across its translucent body. To the casual eye, it looks almost fragile, like glass stained by sunlight. But in the silence of the reef, that pattern means power. It's the warning of a creature armed not with teeth or claws, but with sound. The tiger pistol shrimp carries one claw much larger than the other, the gun of the ocean, curved like a coiled question mark. When open, it looks harmless, even decorative. But when it snaps, it becomes an explosion. The claw closes so fast it creates a cavitation bubble that bursts with light and heat. That bubble implodes, producing a pulse strong enough to stun small fish and crack snail shells. For a moment the water flashes, then nothing. The prey drifts silently, and the shrimp drags it into its burrow like a ghost disappearing through smoke. Each shot happens faster than a human blink, and underwater microphones record it as a sharp crack, peaking around 210 decibels, louder than a gunshot. Yet it is not random. The shrimp knows when to fire and when to wait. Each sound carries meaning, a warning to rivals, a signal to allies, or a simple act of survival. But what sets the tiger pistol shrimp apart from its cousins is its patience. It is not a wanderer but an architect. It spends most of its life beneath the seabed, tunnelling through layers of silt and crushed shell. Its burrow can stretch over 1 metre deep, with multiple exits, chambers for eggs, and corridors that twist like veins through coral debris. It is an underground city built grain by grain, claw by claw. In these tunnels the tiger shrimp rules, unseen but always listening. Its eyes, though weak, are tuned to vibration. It feels the tremor of a passing crab, or the distant hum of a goby's fin. In that darkness, sound becomes sight. The claw flexes slightly, a breath, then click. A spark beneath the ocean floor. It hunts mostly at dusk when the water cools and the light fractures into dim gold. Small crustaceans and worms wander too close, sensing nothing until the last moment. Then the shrimp fires, stunning them in an invisible shockwave. There is no chase, no struggle, only stillness. Predation turned into poetry, but even predators need protection. The tiger pistol shrimp is a master of cooperation, living in partnership with the watchman goby, a small fish that sees for two. While the shrimp digs, the goby stands guard at the entrance of the burrow, tail resting lightly on the shrimp's antenna. A flick to the left means danger near. A tap to the right means all clear. It is communication by touch, a language of instinct older than sight. The goby, with its keen eyes, warns of eels, rays, and larger shrimp. The shrimp, with its claw and tunnels, provides shelter and safety, neither dominates. They live as one mind in two bodies, the tiger's patience and the watchman's vigilance breathing in the same rhythm. At night, when the current softens, you can see them together at the entrance, the shrimp grooming the sand, the goby hovering like a silver lantern, one blind, one seeing. Together they survive what neither could face alone. The tiger pistol shrimp's world is one of shadows and echoes. Its stripes are not for beauty but for mimicry, a form of camouflage against the dark coral rubble. To an octopus or predator fish, those shifting bands blur with the moving sand. It vanishes not by hiding, but by blending with motion itself. Its power comes not from chaos, but from rhythm. It doesn't fire wildly. It listens first to the hiss of the current, to the distant clicking of other pistol shrimps, to the vibrations of passing fins. Only when the moment is right does it raise its claw and let the ocean speak through it. Scientists studying its anatomy discovered that the claw's closing mechanism acts like a biological spring-loaded hammer. Muscles compress and store energy in a socket joint, then release it with explosive force. The bubble that follows reaches temperatures of over 4,000 degrees, though only for microseconds. That flash of heat and pressure, enough to create a faint pulse of light, is a reminder that even the smallest creature can harness the physics of the stars. If you dive near reefs in the Indo-Pacific, the tiger pistol shrimp's domain is easy to miss. A small mound of sand, two tiny holes, and a watchful goby nearby. But listen, you'll hear the faint rhythm of its work, steady, patient, like a blacksmith tapping on an invisible forge. The burrow grows, the tunnel strengthens, the world beneath the surface shifts grain by grain. This is how the reef breathes, through architects no larger than a finger. In aquariums, tiger pistol shrimps often rearrange pebbles and sand overnight, sculpting their miniature empires with relentless devotion. Every morning, keepers find new hills, new entrances, new chambers. It never stops building, because the ocean never stops moving. There's a quiet lesson in that. Even at the bottom of the world, where silence reigns, something is always working to rebuild. Something small, something unseen. At times, the shrimp's firing becomes territorial, a declaration that another pistol shrimp has come too close. The water crackles like distant fireworks, bursts of sound echoing through coral valleys. To the untrained ear it sounds like static. To the shrimp, it's conversation. A negotiation of boundaries, a dialogue written in shockwaves. When the ocean darkens into night, the tiger pistol shrimp seals its burrow with sand and fragments of shell. It rests beside the goby, antennae coiled like threads of glass. Its body glows faintly under bioluminescent plankton drifting above. The reef quiets, but the clicking never truly stops. Somewhere, beneath the sand, another claw closes. It's easy to underestimate what you can't see. But the ocean has always hidden its strength in silence. The tiger pistol shrimp doesn't roar or chase, it listens and acts. It knows that power doesn't need to be seen, only felt. Its claw, its stripes, its tunnels, all part of the same truth, that survival is an art form performed softly beneath the waves. And if you listen closely enough, late at night, when the sea hums low, you'll hear it. A crack, a pop, a whisper of thunder from the sand. Not war, not warning, just life, announcing itself to the dark. Somewhere, a shrimp and a fish rest together at the mouth of their home. The tide rocks them like a lullaby. The ocean breathes, and the world, for just a moment, feels perfectly built. Beneath the crushing darkness, far below the sunlit reefs and the forests of coral, the ocean becomes another world entirely. There, at depths of nearly 2,000 meters, where pressure would crush a human body in seconds, something moves. It crawls slowly across the silt like a ghost made of armor. The giant isopod, a relic from an age when the earth still smoked from its own birth. It is not, in truth, a shrimp. Though its segmented shell and twitching antennae might fool you, it is closer to a woodlouse, an ancient cousin that traded forests for the abyss. But while its relatives on land roll into small grey pellets, this creature stretches nearly 1/2 meter long, the size of a newborn child, its body plated in pale lavender armor that reflects faint flashes of light from submersibles. Its eyes are enormous and glossy, made to gather even the weakest photons that leak through the black. Its legs, 7 pairs of them, march in slow, deliberate rhythm, the gait of something that has never known haste. The giant isopod lives in eternal night. There is no day here, no current strong enough to carry warmth. The water is close to freezing, and food drifts down from the world above as a gentle, ceaseless snow, flakes of dead plankton, bits of fish, the soft rain of decay. It waits, buried in sediment, unmoving. Patience is its religion. Sometimes it will go 5 years without eating, conserving energy in a stillness so perfect that even nearby sensors fail to detect its breath. And yet, when food comes, a whale carcass falling through the blue, a fish too weak to swim, the giant isopod awakens, its body uncoils, legs stir, and the slow rhythm of the deep becomes thunder. Dozens may gather, drawn by scent rather than sight, swarming the corpse in silence. Their claws are not weapons but tools, tearing and scraping with mechanical precision. They eat until their bellies swell grotesquely, pale armour stretching, plates separating slightly under pressure. Then they return to the dark, to wait again. Seen up close, the giant isopod is both eerie and beautiful. Its shell reflects soft gradients of grey and lilac. Fine hairs cover its legs and mouth parts, sensory threads that read vibrations like a blind man reading air. When it curls into a ball, as it sometimes does when threatened, it becomes a perfect sphere of armour, smooth and seamless. No predator can pierce it. Even the pressure of the abyss yields no wound. In those depths, movement is slow because time itself feels heavy. Every twitch costs energy, every breath a calculation. But that doesn't mean the isopod is mindless. Studies have shown it reacts intelligently to disturbance, distinguishing between prey, rival, and machine. Its brain, though small, is wired for endurance. A system built not to think quickly, but to last forever. Imagine, for a moment, living in a place where sound dies before it travels a meter, where light fades before it reaches your eyes, where you depend entirely on vibrations, the faint tremor of a falling shell, the pressure wave of a distant current, to understand the world. That is the isopod's existence. A life lived not through sight or song, but through the language of movement. When researchers first caught one and brought it to the surface, it seemed unremarkable, just a pale crustacean resting in a tank. But then, days turned into weeks, and it refused to eat. It simply curled up, motionless, conserving itself as though waiting for the deep to return. Months passed, it still lived. The scientists began to realize this was not hunger. This was memory. It was remembering the rhythm of darkness, the weight of silence, the slow pulse of a world far below. To the giant isopod, patience is survival. Every motion it makes must matter. When it buries itself beneath the mud, its body becomes indistinguishable from stone. It doesn't hide, it merges. The abyss is not its prison, it is its skin. Sometimes, when deep-sea cameras capture footage of the ocean floor, one can see them moving like shadows, slow and spectral. Their eyes, faceted and reflective, catch the artificial light for an instant before fading again into black. Each step stirs a faint cloud of silt that hangs for hours before settling. No rush, no panic. In the deep there is no need to hurry, because nothing is chasing time there. If you could touch it, the shell would feel like cold metal. Its surface bears small ridges, faint scars from the pressure of centuries. It is in every sense a creature shaped by patience and gravity. Somewhere in its genes lies the memory of the first life to crawl from the sea, and then crawl back again, wiser for the mistake. There's a strange comfort in its existence, a reminder that even at the lowest depths, where no sunlight or warmth can reach, life still persists. Not in defiance, but in acceptance. The giant isopod doesn't fight the dark, it becomes part of it. It teaches that survival can be an act of quiet surrender, a lesson most creatures, including us, have forgotten. When explorers send probes down to the Hadal Plains, sometimes the cameras record brief flashes of movement, a curved shadow, a ripple in the sediment. Then the isopod appears, moving with ghostly grace. It approaches the camera lens, studies its reflection, then drifts away again as if unimpressed. For something that has lived 100 million years in silence, human invention must seem very small. Up there, above, the ocean churns with storms and engines. Here, in the dark, everything is deliberate. Each heartbeat counts, each meal is remembered, each pause lasts as long as it must, and when, after decades, one finally dies, it leaves nothing behind but its armour, a hollow shell that glints like pewter in the submarine lights. Within hours, bacteria and scavengers begin their work, breaking it down, feeding the endless cycle of return. Even in death, the isopod nourishes the world it once waited within. In this way, it is both monument and messenger. Proof that stillness is not the absence of life, but its endurance. That the deepest silence of the ocean isn't empty, but full, of creatures too patient for our eyes to notice. So when you find yourself lying awake, surrounded by quiet, think of it. The giant isopod, curled in the cold dark, waiting calmly beneath the crushing sea. No light, no fear, no need, just the long rhythm of the abyss. Slow, eternal, forgiving. And perhaps, as you drift towards sleep, you'll understand what it already knows, that peace is not something you find, it's something you become when you finally stop needing to rise to the surface. The ocean floor is not as still as it looks. Beneath the smooth blanket of sand, something is always moving. A slow, invisible architecture of tunnels, chambers and bridges, built grain by a creature you might never see. They call it the ghost shrimp, but that name carries both truth and poetry. Its body is nearly transparent, the colour of salt water and glass. You can see its heartbeat through its shell, the faint pulse of life flickering in its chest like a candle behind frosted glass. And yet, despite its fragility, it is one of the greatest builders of the sea. Ghost shrimps live in the soft sands of lagoons and estuaries, in the quiet shallows where waves break gently and the sunlight filters down in silver threads. There they dig, tirelessly, endlessly. Each tunnel they make can reach 2 meters deep, twisting like veins under the seabed. These tunnels are not random, they form entire networks, corridors for oxygen, traps for plankton, shelters for other small animals who share the underworld. Every movement of the shrimp's claw reshapes the seabed in miniature, letting the ocean breathe through its soil. When you walk on a beach at low tide and see small holes scattered like constellations in the sand, those are their doorways. Behind each one, a ghost shrimp works in silence. Its claws are long and curved, one larger than the other, specialised not for fighting but for digging. Each stroke moves a pinch of sand upward, releasing faint bubbles that float to the surface like whispers. Through this ceaseless excavation, it aerates the sediment, allowing nutrients to circulate, oxygen to flow, and carbon to be buried. In its invisible labour, the ghost shrimp becomes an ecosystem all by itself. Scientists call it bioturbation, nature's slow alchemy of sand and life. But to the shrimp, there is no science, no thought of service, only rhythm. Dig, rest, dig again. A pulse that mirrors the tides. Its burrow becomes a labyrinth of rooms, one for resting, one for feeding, one for sheltering eggs. Each chamber is lined with finer sand, a soft carpet for a creature that will never see the sun. Despite its solitude, the ghost shrimp is not alone. Tiny worms, brittle stars, and small crabs often share its burrows, forming quiet colonies beneath the world we walk upon. Each species plays a role. Some clean, some feed, some defend. All depend on the shrimp, the unseen engineer. And still, it remains humble, invisible, uncelebrated, content to stay below. When threatened, it releases a stream of air bubbles, a clever distraction that confuses predators like flounders or rays. By the time the bubbles burst at the surface, the shrimp is already gone, vanished into the deeper chambers of its home. That trick, simple yet elegant, is its smoke bomb, its escape plan, its ghost act. Its body, nearly colourless, glows faintly under certain lights. In clear water it seems to vanish, its outline trembling like heat waves. It's easy to mistake it for an illusion, a trick of the eyes, a reflection of something that isn't there. And perhaps that's the secret of its name. It haunts the sand not by haunting it, but by becoming it. Marine ecologists have found that the health of entire coastal ecosystems depends on these hidden architects. In areas where ghost shrimps thrive, Oxygen flows deeper into the sediment. Coral larvae settle more easily, algae grows more evenly, and filter feeders like clams and anemones find cleaner homes. Remove them, as some fishermen once did, thinking them pests, and the seabed suffocates, the sand hardens, the ecosystem slows, the beach without its ghosts begins to die. So they returned. Scientists now protect ghost shrimp populations in many estuaries, calling them ecosystem engineers, though the creatures themselves would never claim the title. They simply keep working, unseen, unchanged. The world above comes and goes, ships, storms, sunlight, but beneath the first inch of sand the old rhythm continues. Sometimes during moonlit nights, when tides pull low and the water recedes, you can hear faint pops and fizzles in the distance, like soda bubbles breaking. It is the sound of air escaping from burrows, the quiet breath of the ocean exhaling through the shrimp's tunnels. Each sound marks a moment of life renewed, sand turned, water refreshed, earth remade. And yet, in aquariums or tanks, the ghost shrimp appears nervous, restless. It will dig furiously, collapse its tunnels, dig again, as if the shallow glass walls make it claustrophobic. It belongs to the infinite, not confinement. Even when fed, it cannot rest. Its claws must move. Its world must change. Stillness for it is death. There's something deeply human in that. The need to build, to shape, to make sense of silence by filling it with work. The ghost shrimp is not strong, not colourful, not loud, but it is relentless. It reshapes the invisible, and because of that, the coastlines we know, the sand under our feet, the coral that grows, the fish that breathe, all exist a little more easily. If you could watch it from below, the sight would be strangely beautiful. A clear body gliding through golden sand, tiny clouds rising behind it. Its claws move like slow metronomes, its antennae sweeping the path ahead, reading vibrations that speak of tides and predators. Now and then it pauses, turns upward, releases a pearl of air, a single bubble that floats toward a sky it will never see. Each of those bubbles is a story, a sigh, a reminder that even in the quietest corners of the world something is keeping time. In the end, the ghost shrimp teaches that life doesn't need to be visible to matter, that the unseen can be as vital as the glorious, that patience, repetition, and gentleness can rebuild the world from below. And when you lie awake at night, listening to the hum of your own breath, imagine those tunnels under the sea, narrow, winding, endless, and a small translucent creature tracing them with care. You might never see it, but somewhere, under the weight of the ocean, it's still there, moving the sand one grain at a time, each grain a heartbeat, each heartbeat a whisper, each whisper a promise that even the smallest hands can keep the planet breathing. There are creatures in the sea that hunt like fire and others that heal like light, but there is one that kills with beauty. The harlequin shrimp, Hymenoptera picta, moves across the coral floor like a fallen petal, drifting on invisible music. Its body is painted in pale pinks, whites, and lavenders, patterned with blue-edged spots that look almost hand-drawn. Every curve, every gesture feels rehearsed, as though it were performing a ballet for the ghosts of the reef. And yet, beneath this gentle grace lies a predator of astonishing precision. It lives in pairs, always two. Where one goes, the other follows, through coral forests under sea fans between the long spines of sea urchins. Together, they share one purpose, the hunt. But their prey is not a school of fish, nor drifting plankton. They hunt starfish, slow, silent, and sacred to many reef dwellers. To find them, the harlequin shrimps trace chemical trails left on the water, sensing faint molecules shed by their prey's skin. When they find one, they circle it with ritual calm, moving in perfect symmetry. Two reflections closing in on a single fate. Their attack is not brutal. It is methodical, almost ceremonial. They flip the starfish onto its back, disabling its escape. Then, using specialized claws, they inject a paralyzing enzyme, numbing the starfish completely. The shrimp do not devour it quickly. They feed slowly, deliberately over days, keeping it alive just enough so the flesh remains fresh. It is a cruel rhythm, but one that nature repeats without apology. The ocean does not pity, it balances. Still, watching them, it's hard to feel revulsion. The scene is too strangely elegant, the dance too mesmerizing. The shrimps move in mirrored arcs, touching their prey as though conducting a quiet prayer. When the meal is done, they clasp claws, clean each other's shells and rest under the curve of coral, exhausted together, complete. The bond between a pair of harlequin shrimps can last a lifetime. They are monogamous, one of the few crustaceans to truly commit to a partner. When separated, they grow restless. Some refuse to eat. Others wander aimlessly until they find another mate or starve. Love, it seems, is both their gift and their weakness. In aquariums, caretakers tell stories of harlequin shrimps mourning. When one dies, the survivor often hides for days, refusing food, curling into crevices as though waiting for something to return. And when it finally emerges, it moves differently, slower, less fluid, as if half of its dance has gone missing. They live in tropical waters, the reefs of the Indo-Pacific, from Hawaii to the Maldives, but their world is not a stage of colour and sunlight as we imagine. It's a mosaic of danger and disguise. Every inch of coral hides something that can eat or be eaten. To survive, the harlequin shrimp must blend art with war. Its patterns are both camouflage and weapon. Dazzling, distracting, hypnotic. Predators hesitate, unsure if what they see is prey or poison. That split second of doubt is all the shrimp needs to vanish into coral folds, its partner close behind. Its body, though delicate, is armour in disguise. The shell is thin but flexible, its edges outlined in soft blue. Its legs fan outward like lace, tipped with small hooks that let it walk gracefully across rough coral. And its claws, those elegant instruments, are sculpted not for brute force, but for touch. Each movement is deliberate, each strike exact. There is no waste in its violence. When it isn't hunting, the harlequin shrimp tends to its home, a small hollow in coral or rubble. Inside, they decorate the floor with bits of shell, sometimes with fragments of the starfish they've eaten. It's both shelter and shrine, a space where love, death, and ritual coexist. Sometimes the female carries eggs beneath her abdomen, translucent pearls that shimmer faintly with her movement. The male guards her during this time, fanning water gently with his swimmerets to keep the eggs oxygenated. When they hatch, the larvae rise toward the surface, joining the drifting plankton, tiny, colourless echoes of their parents, floating in the current until the ocean gives them a reef of their own. Marine biologists often marvel at their precision, the way two harlequin shrimps coordinate attacks, how they signal silently, how they seem to anticipate each other's moves. Some believe they use chemical communication, others suspect subtle vibrations or body cues. Whatever the method, the harmony is perfect. They move as if choreographed by the sea itself. In the language of myths, you could call them dancers of death, lovers who feed together and die together, wrapped in silk and shadow. But that's only one way of seeing them. There's another truth, that even predation, when done with purpose and unity, becomes something close to art. If you dive deep enough and find them, two tiny figures beneath a ledge, their bodies glowing softly in filtered light. It feels like stumbling into a secret. The water stills. The coral seems to hold its breath. And for a moment, everything underwater looks choreographed. Every sway of the seaweed, every shift of the current, every glimmer of scale, all moving to the same silent rhythm. It is easy to forget, watching them, that they are killers, that their beauty feeds on suffering. But that is the paradox of the sea. It hides its cruelties beneath layers of grace. The harlequin shrimp does not disguise its nature. It refines it. It turns hunger into ritual, and in doing so, it becomes something more than predator. It becomes the embodiment of the ocean's oldest truth, that survival can be beautiful even when it breaks the heart. As night falls and the reef darkens, the pair return to their burrow. The female presses against the male, their antennae touching like fingers intertwined. Outside, the sea stars settle, unaware that tomorrow may bring another dance. The current hums softly, a lullaby for hunters and prey alike. Inside the hollow, the shrimps rest, shells glowing faintly like the last embers of a fading lantern. And somewhere, above the waterline, a wave breaks on the shore. a sound that echoes the rhythm of their claws, the beat of their small hearts. Two creatures no larger than your thumb, holding the delicate balance between life and loss, beauty and brutality, silence and song. The ocean dreams through them, quietly, endlessly, painting love and hunger with the same brush of light. Every city has its healers, and every reef has its doctors. Among the coral towers where danger glides in scales and teeth, there exists a creature that survives not through fear or force, but through trust. The cleaner shrimp, red and white, delicate and bright, tends to wounds and whispers between giants. While other creatures flee from predators, it swims toward them, bearing no weapon but an open invitation. It is small, barely the length of a finger, with long, graceful antennae that wave like banners in the current. Its colours are vivid, ruby red with white stripes running down its back and translucent legs that shimmer like spun glass. In the chaos of the reef, this colour isn't camouflage, it's a signal. It means, I am not prey, I am safe, I heal. During the day, the cleaner shrimp waits at its station, a coral alcove, a rocky ledge, or the mouth of a sea cave, like a clinic in the wilderness. There, it performs a silent dance, waving its antennae in slow arcs, a motion that carries through the water like a whisper of promise. Fish, even predators like groupers, moray eels and reef sharks, notice. One by one they approach and hover, holding perfectly still, their gills and fins frozen in submission. In this rare pause of the wild, something miraculous happens. Trust replaces instinct. The shrimp begins its work. It crawls across their bodies, stepping carefully over fins and scales, searching for parasites and dead tissue. It picks at wounds, cleans the mouth, even ventures inside the gills, the most vulnerable of places. Its long claws move like gentle hands, plucking, brushing, tending. The fish, eyes half-lidded, stays calm, sometimes opening its mouth wider as if to say, "Go on." It's a scene almost sacred in its serenity, a predator and prey locked not in violence, but in mutual care. Biologists call this mutualistic symbiosis, but words cannot capture its grace. To witness it is to watch the ocean hold its breath. The shrimp does not fear the jaws that could crush it in a heartbeat. The fish does not fear the tiny creature that dares to touch its teeth. There is no dominance, no deception, only need met with precision. The shrimp's secret lies in scent and ritual. Its body releases a specific pheromone, a chemical that signals peace. When it approaches, the fish recognizes the smell, a natural truce, encoded in evolution. It knows, this one is not food. The antenna's rhythm reinforces that message, repeating the same wave pattern that every species has learned to understand. It is a universal language of mercy. Cleaner shrimps often work in pairs, sometimes even in small colonies, running what look like underwater hospitals. They set up at predictable spots known as cleaning stations and fish queue in orderly lines. Parrotfish, wrasses, tangs, even rays. Each waits its turn. Sometimes, while one shrimp works, another fans the water to bring in more oxygen for the patient. They take no payment but the satisfaction of survival, and the scraps of parasites they consume as food. At dusk, when the light fades and the reef glows faintly blue, the stations close. The cleaners retreat into cracks, folding their antennae and resting beneath the coral roof. Tomorrow the same ritual will begin again, a rhythm older than memory, and yet there are moments of danger even in peace. A fish might misjudge. An eel, startled, might snap by reflex. Sometimes a shrimp is swallowed mid-treatment, disappearing into a darkness it trusted too much. But such accidents are rare. For the most part, even the fiercest hunters obey the code. It is one of the ocean's few true sanctuaries, where killing pauses and balance breathes. In captivity, cleaner shrimps often continue their duties, even without clients. They approach divers' hands, removing specks of skin, cleaning fingernails, exploring the new giant that has entered their world. Some aquarists describe the feeling as electric, the tickle of tiny legs, the soft pluck of claws, the faint reminder that trust can cross species. There is something deeply poetic in their design. Their long, elegant antennae are not weapons or ornaments. They are communication made visible. They declare peace before the body even moves. Their dance, repeated countless times each day, is both greeting and protection. To be a healer in a world of hunters requires courage, and grace. The cleaner shrimp's work shapes the entire reef. By removing parasites, it keeps populations healthy, preventing disease from spreading. Fish that are cleaned more often live longer, swim more freely, and even display brighter colours. In a sense, the shrimp doesn't just heal individuals, it heals the idea of the reef itself, keeping harmony alive in a place where survival often depends on silence and speed. If the reef is a city, then the cleaner shrimp is its humble doctor, its priest, its peacekeeper. It carries no crown, no title, no armour, only the faith of others. And perhaps that is its true power, to live not through fear, but through faith. Under ultraviolet light its body glows faintly, white turning to pale violet, red deepening into ruby. Seen through a diver's lens, it looks like a spark moving through a cathedral of coral. Around it, giant fish hover patiently, letting it work. In the shimmering stillness, time feels suspended. Every motion, the wave of an antenna, the flick of a tail, becomes a prayer. Even after decades of study, scientists still marvel at the universality of its behaviour. No matter the ocean, no matter the species, predators learn to trust the cleaner shrimp. It is an agreement written into nature's oldest law, that even in struggle, coexistence must have its moments of peace. Sometimes, after a storm, divers find cleaning stations deserted, the coral overturned, the sand clouded, but within days they rebuild. The shrimps return, clearing debris, waving antennae again, reopening their clinics. Their patience rivals the tides themselves. If you could listen closely enough, perhaps you'd hear them. The faint brushing of legs against scales, the hush of gills opening, the smallest heartbeat between breaths. In that quiet, the ocean feels almost human, tender, deliberate, forgiving. So when you close your eyes tonight and the room grows still, imagine that underwater city at work. Imagine a crimson and white healer, stepping fearlessly into the jaws of a shark, cleaning what's broken, leaving peace behind. Imagine that somewhere in the blue dark, a tiny creature is reminding the sea, and maybe us, that gentleness is its own form of strength, and that healing, in the end, is just another word for trust. If the cleaner shrimp is the gentle doctor of the reef, then the skeleton shrimp is its ghost. So small that it's almost invisible, so still that it's often mistaken for the seaweed it clings to, this strange creature belongs to the realm of half-truths, alive, yet looking like death itself. Its body is a whisper of shape, long, thin, jointed like wire. Seen up close, it resembles a stick figure drawn by the ocean, a line of transparent glass bent into motion. The skeleton shrimp lives in places no one looks, on strands of algae, on hydroids, on floating filaments of plankton that sway like hair in the current. It doesn't swim or crawl or wander. It clings, folding its rear legs around its chosen stem and standing upright like a sentry. When the water moves, it moves too, swaying in perfect imitation. To any passing predator, it is nothing but part of the scenery. Its body is so thin that it casts no shadow. Light passes through it almost completely, broken only by faint reflections off the edges of its exoskeleton. Its eyes are small black beads, motionless, watching through a world that barely acknowledges it. Even breathing for this creature is almost imperceptible. Its chest expands in the rhythm of a heartbeat you'd need silence to hear, and yet, for all its fragility, the skeleton shrimp is a predator, ruthless and precise. Its front legs are shaped like scythes, folding and unfolding with the grace of a praying mantis. It waits for tiny crustaceans or passing plankton, and then, in a blur of motion, it strikes. There is no chase, no sound, no violence beyond necessity. The prey vanishes, folded into stillness, and the shrimp resumes its quiet mimicry. In this miniature world of threads and ghosts, survival depends on stillness. To move too much is to die. So the skeleton shrimp learns the rhythm of its environment, the pulse of the current, the vibration of predators passing, the breathing of the tide. It becomes fluent in invisibility. Its existence borders on paradox. It looks like a corpse but carries life. It acts motionless but kills with speed. It appears alone, yet whole colonies can live on a single blade of algae. Dozens of skeletons swaying together, each with its own fragile kingdom. Under magnification, it's like watching a forest made of nerves, each branch alive and alert. But even ghosts have dramas. The skeleton shrimp has a fierce and private life, one of courtship, jealousy, and even murder. Males grow long claws during mating season, fighting rivals with violent elegance. They grip and twist, wrestling for territory and for the right to keep a mate. When victorious, the male guards the female fiercely, wrapping his spindly arms around her body like a cage. When she produces eggs, he stays close, fanning water over them to keep them alive. But if she dies, or if the hunger grows too deep, he may devour her eggs himself. In the deep sea, even love is never far from hunger. Females, for their part, carry their eggs in a small brood pouch under their body. When they hatch, the young emerge as perfect miniatures of their parents, translucent, fragile, clinging immediately to whatever surface they can find. Their lives will be spent in repetition: hold, sway, strike, wait. The cycle of motion disguised as stillness. To humans, these creatures are invisible, smaller than a fingernail, thinner than a thread. But under the microscope, they are terrifyingly beautiful. Their translucent armour shines with faint iridescence, edges rimmed in silver where light refracts. Their joints glisten with a glassy sheen, their claws lined with microscopic hairs for sensing prey. Every detail looks handcrafted, deliberate, as if the sea, in its infinite patience, decided to sculpt a being out of almost nothing. Some species of skeleton shrimp practice cannibalism. When food is scarce, they turn on their neighbours, wrapping around them like vines until one ceases to move. The ocean is not cruel, it simply forgets to be kind. And yet, the same species may be seen cleaning one another, sharing space, forming small colonies that pulse and sway together under the light. Life, in its smallest forms, always manages contradiction. When divers first discover them, often by accident, watching a piece of seaweed come to life, the reaction is disbelief. Something so strange shouldn't exist. A creature so delicate should not survive. And yet, the skeleton shrimp has endured for millions of years, adapting to almost every ocean, from Arctic shallows to tropical lagoons. It thrives where visibility means death. It survives by refusing to be seen. There is something poetic about that kind of existence, a being that doesn't need to be noticed to matter, a life that proves you don't have to roar to persist. The skeleton shrimp is the quiet proof that invisibility too can be power. When night comes to the reef and moonlight filters through the waves, the algae begin to glow faintly with bioluminescent dust. And on each glowing stem the skeleton shrimp stand, hundreds of them, swaying like thin reeds in the wind. For a brief moment, they look like lanterns made of bone, a slow, breathing constellation drifting beneath the surface. The scene is eerie but strangely peaceful. The ocean is filled with movement, yet here everything seems frozen in time. If the mantis shrimp is the thunder of the reef, the skeleton shrimp is its silence. Where one creates light through impact, the other creates invisibility through calm. Together they form the two halves of the ocean's soul: power and patience, force and fragility. In the language of metaphor, you could say the skeleton shrimp is the spirit of endurance. It clings to life not through dominance, but through presence. It has learned the art of existing so lightly that the world forgets to erase it. And so, when you lie awake and the air feels heavy with stillness, imagine them, thousands of translucent shapes rocking gently in invisible tides, unseen but very much alive. Each movement, a breath. Each breath, a vow to remain. No colour, no sound, no spectacle. Just persistence, quiet, unwavering, beautiful in its refusal to vanish. That is the lesson of the skeleton shrimp. To keep your balance even when the current shifts, to hold fast without holding tight, to live so quietly that the world mistakes you for part of its rhythm, until one day it realizes you've been there all along, keeping time with the sea. Far beneath the horizon, in a world without light, there are mountains that breathe fire. They are called hydrothermal vents, wounds in the Earth's crust that exhale water heated to over 400 degrees Celsius, rich with minerals and poison. Here, where no sunlight has ever touched, life glows by another kind of light, not from the sun, but from chemistry, from the heat of creation itself. And in this inferno, there walks a creature of ice. The Yeti lobster, Kiwa hirsuta, white as snow, gentle as prayer, and unlike anything else on Earth. Discovered only in 2005, this strange being lives where life shouldn't exist at all, on the edge of boiling vents that could melt metal. It doesn't hunt, doesn't chase, doesn't see. It simply raises its arms, long feathery claws covered in silky hair, and waits. Through those delicate fibres live colonies of bacteria that feed on toxic chemicals from the vents. The lobster in turn tends them like a gardener, waving its arms slowly through the rising plumes so that the microbes can breathe and grow. When they flourish, the lobster eats them, harvesting its own living crops, a creature farming on the floor of hell. Its body is pale, almost luminous, not white like snow, but the white of bone polished by time. It has no pigment, no need for colour, for there is no light to reflect. Its eyes are gone, replaced by smooth plates of chitin that once held sight but now read warmth and flow. It is blind, yet it moves with purpose, sensing vibrations, mapping temperature, following the subtle whispers of the vent's breath. It lives in colonies, huddled together in shimmering groups that cling to rocks slick with sulphur and heat. The scene is otherworldly, fields of pale lobsters waving their feathery claws in unison, like worshippers in silent ceremony. Around them black smoke gushes from fissures, curling upward like incense. The water glows faintly blue from mineral light. It looks less like Earth and more like the dream of another planet. And yet, this is Earth, the same planet where rain falls and coral grows and humans sleep. The Yeti lobster reminds us that life has no single face. It adapts, transforms, invents itself anew wherever conditions allow even the smallest chance. Where we see death, the ocean plants miracles. To survive here requires more than endurance. It requires reinvention. The Yeti lobster doesn't breathe oxygen the way surface animals do. It extracts life from the impossible. Its blood carries hemocyanin, rich in copper instead of iron, turning it blue when oxygenated. That strange blood keeps it alive where others would dissolve. Its exoskeleton, though fragile, resists heat and acid, and its hairs, called setae, are more than decoration. They are farms, lungs, and sensors all at once. Scientists studying them notice something extraordinary: the way they care for their bacterial gardens. The lobsters gently clean the bacteria with smaller appendages, brushing away excess sediment and regulating their growth. When new bacteria are needed, they wave their claws nearer to the vent to feed the colonies with more nutrients. It's a relationship older than agriculture, a kind of underwater Eden, cultivated not with tools but with patience. Their world is both paradise and purgatory. Temperatures can shift from near freezing to boiling within a few centimetres. The water is heavy with hydrogen sulfide, gas so toxic it would kill a human in seconds, and yet life thrives here. Tube worms, snails, crabs, and the Yeti lobsters themselves, all part of a web powered not by sunlight but by chemistry. It is called chemosynthesis, the art of turning poison into breath. The Yeti lobster lives by that art. In its stillness, it carries a strange serenity. It never hurries. Its slow arm movements are almost hypnotic, the pace of something that has forgotten fear. It doesn't flee, because nothing in this darkness hunts it. The predators of the upper ocean cannot survive the heat. The fragile creatures of the abyss cannot bear the cold of its edge. Here, in this impossible borderland, the Yeti lobster reigns quietly, neither prey nor tyrant, a monk of the deep. When scientists brought one to the surface, its white glow faded. Without pressure, without poison, without heat, it died within hours. It belonged only to the vent, to that trembling place between death and creation. Its beauty existed only where no human eyes were meant to see. And yet, the image of it, those outstretched feathery claws glowing in the dark and haunted the world above. It reminded us of something we had forgotten, that even in our most forsaken places life still prays, that silence does not mean emptiness, that the universe, vast and cold, still folds small miracles inside its fractures. In a sense, the Yeti lobster is less an animal than an idea, a symbol of endurance without violence, of faith without sight. It does not conquer its environment, it tends to it. It doesn't consume endlessly, it cultivates balance. It lives not by domination, but by cooperation, with the bacteria, with the vents, with the molten heart of the planet itself. When you imagine it, blind, pale, unmoving except for that slow, sacred wave, you might think it lonely. But down there, surrounded by others doing the same, it is part of something greater, a cathedral of silence, each lobster raising its arms to the rising smoke, catching warmth from the earth's breath, feeding the invisible. They are in every sense the monks of the abyss, tending light that no one sees, keeping faith that no one asks for, living proof that life, at its purest, is an act of devotion. And so, the Yeti lobster waits. It will never see the sun, it will never know the surface, or the stars or the sound of the waves. But it doesn't need to. It has found its purpose in the dark, to turn poison into life, to turn heat into hope. It is the keeper of a sacred equilibrium, performing its quiet rituals at the mouth of the earth's oldest fires. When you close your eyes tonight and the world feels distant or cold, remember this creature in the depths, white as marble, motionless in prayer, breathing through its gardens of invisible life. It reminds us that peace can exist even in the furnace, that grace can bloom even in poison, and that sometimes the purest form of light is the one that shines where no one is watching. Down there, between the molten core and the frozen sea, the Yeti lobster continues to wave its arms in slow motion, not in surrender, but in eternal praise, a hymn without sound, a devotion without witness, and yet, because of it, the ocean still lives. Not all rulers wear crowns of gold. Some reign from the backs of giants, riding through the slow pulse of the sea like silent emperors of colour and grace. The emperor shrimp, Periclymenes imperator, is a creature of brilliant paradox, small enough to disappear between grains of sand, yet majestic enough to carry the name of kings. It wears the ocean's most regal colours, glowing orange and violet, with bands of white that trace its armour like ivory paint. And it travels not by swimming, but by riding. You might find one drifting on the leathery skin of a sea cucumber, or straddling the shell of a nudibranch as if commanding a royal mount. While its hosts crawl along the ocean floor, the shrimp clings with delicate legs, its antennae flowing like banners in the current. Together, they move through coral valleys and along the dim sands of the Indo-Pacific, an unlikely procession, slow, strange, and beautiful. The emperor shrimp's throne is alive. This is a commensal relationship where the shrimp benefits while its host remains unharmed, a masterpiece of subtle survival. By living on the back of creatures that few dare to attack, the shrimp gains both safety and transport. Predators overlook it, distracted by the larger form it rides upon. And as the host feeds, stirring up bits of organic debris, the shrimp eats too, crumbs of the banquet that would otherwise be lost to the tide. Yet this is no mere act of parasitic convenience. The emperor shrimp also cleans its host, brushing away algae and detritus with careful claws. In return, the host's skin provides shelter and movement, carrying its passenger through territories it could never reach alone. One protects, the other preserves. In this quiet agreement, both thrive. To see it up close is to glimpse the precision of art. Its translucent shell refracts the water around it like crystal, while its colours, bright orange legs, violet spots, and a pure white back, shimmer as it shifts in light. No two individuals look quite the same. Each wears its own variation of the imperial palette. Some scientists believe the colours act as warning or mimicry, signalling toxicity to would-be hunters. But perhaps, like all true elegance, it exists simply because the world is more beautiful with it. When the shrimp moves, it doesn't crawl awkwardly as one might expect. It glides with a strange grace, using its legs like dancer's arms, balancing perfectly even as its host twists or bends. The current ripples through its antennae, and the world passes beneath it, coral, shell, shadow, all while it remains poised and alert. There is serenity in its stillness, like a passenger who has mastered the art of trust. And yet, for all its elegance, its life is a fragile thread. A single careless movement from its host could crush it. A single current could sweep it away into open water. It depends entirely on balance, on understanding where to grip and when to let go. Its world is literally the back of another, and to live there requires constant awareness. In this delicate existence lies its quiet nobility. The emperor shrimp reminds us that leadership in nature does not always mean dominance. Sometimes it means harmony, the ability to coexist, to move as one with the living world that carries you. It is an emperor not by conquest, but by grace. Its journeys can last months. As the sea cucumber drifts across the seabed, or the nudibranch glides through coral gardens, the shrimp travels vast distances without ever touching the sand. It cleans as it rides, eats what it finds, rests when the host rests. Some are even seen switching hosts, leaping from one living vessel to another in a moment of daring, vanishing into folds of moving skin before the ocean's eyes can blink. It is a commuter of the deep, travelling without map or anchor, guided only by the rhythm of its living transport. In aquariums, the emperor shrimp captivates all who see it. Its colours seem painted by human imagination, orange so deep it borders on flame, violet so luminous it looks wet with light. Photographers often describe it as impossible to photograph badly. It looks royal in every angle, glowing even in stillness. But what the camera cannot capture is its tenderness. It does not claw or pierce. Its touch is gentle, exploratory, a constant conversation with the host it rides. When the host rests, it perches quietly like a jewel upon velvet. When the host feeds, it moves to the front, tasting the stirred particles with small flicks of its claws. When danger approaches, it slips beneath the folds of its living partner, trusting in its armour as if in divine protection. It is faith turned into instinct. At night, when the ocean darkens into liquid ink, the emperor shrimp's colours dim to soft embers. It clings tighter to its host, riding through unseen valleys of current. Sometimes it leaves, exploring the sand for a brief hunt, glowing faintly under the bioluminescent shimmer of plankton. A single ember wandering in the abyss, but it always returns, drawn by scent, by vibration, by memory. The sea, vast and cruel, becomes a little smaller when one has a home that moves. In many ways, the emperor shrimp embodies the oldest rule of the ocean: survival through connection. Nothing here truly lives alone. Not coral, not fish, not shrimp. Every life leans on another, woven into a tapestry of currents and breaths. To see the emperor shrimp riding its host is to see that web made visible, an unspoken truth that the ocean whispers to itself, that power lies not in isolation, but in relationship. Its name, Emperor, might seem exaggerated for such a small creature, but perhaps it is the truest title possible, because what defines an emperor is not his size, but the stillness with which he moves through chaos, and this shrimp moves through the wildest kingdom on earth, a world of predators and pressure, of hunger and heat, with poise, confidence, and trust. It commands nothing, yet nothing touches it. It claims no throne, yet it rides upon one. In the dim glow of underwater cameras, you can sometimes see it stroking its host's skin, gently, repeatedly, as though offering gratitude. The gesture is small, but in it lies everything that keeps the ocean alive. The endless exchange between giver and receiver, builder and keeper, traveller and home. So when you think of kings, remember this one. Tiny, translucent, balanced upon the back of another life. He moves without fear, carries no weapon, harms nothing, and yet survives the fiercest seas. The emperor shrimp, glowing like an ember against the dark, teaches us that, even in a world built on teeth and instinct, grace can be a kind of power, and gratitude a kind of armour. Somewhere in the deep it continues to ride, orange flame on a slow-moving tide, patient, weightless, faithful, a crown carried not on its head but in its heart. If the sea ever had pilgrims, they would look like this, armoured travellers walking in long patient lines through corridors of sand and shadow. The spiny lobster, with its long silver antennae and its shell covered in ridges and spikes, is both knight and wanderer. It does not have the heavy claws of true lobsters, nor the weapons of mantis shrimps. It carries only its armour, its endurance, and a map written into its blood, a compass that points to a destiny no one fully understands. In the tropical oceans of the world, the Caribbean, the Indo-Pacific, the waters around Australia, these creatures live hidden under coral ledges and rocky caves. By day, they rest, pressed against one another like ancient statues, but when night falls they rise in silence. Dozens, sometimes hundreds, crawl out and form a procession, a single file of armoured bodies, antennae touching the tail of the one before, moving across the seafloor like a slow-moving river of bronze. No leader, no sound, no hesitation. Only motion, purposeful and slow, as if the ocean itself were breathing through them. This migration can last for miles. When storms approach or the water cools with the turning seasons, the spiny lobsters begin their pilgrimage, walking together toward deeper, safer waters. Their long antennae sweep through the sand like silver reeds, detecting the faint electric fields of the world around them. They navigate with the precision of a machine, guided by magnetoreception, the ability to sense the Earth's magnetic field. It is an invisible map encoded in nerve and instinct, leading them unerringly toward the same destinations year after year. The sight is hypnotic. Hundreds of lobsters in a glowing file, illuminated by moonlight filtering through waves, their shells glinting like polished armour. Each step stirs a puff of sand that drifts upward and falls again, erasing their tracks behind them. It's as if they walk not to arrive, but to remember, to trace again the path written into the memory of the sea. Their armour is remarkable, ridged and spiked, coloured in deep crimson and gold. Instead of claws, they wield antennae longer than their bodies, which they use to fight, communicate, and sense vibrations. When threatened, they produce a screeching sound, a rasp made by rubbing the base of the antennae against a rough patch of the head, a natural violin born from chitin and fear. The sound echoes eerily through the water, warning others and startling predators. It's the only voice they have, sharp, metallic, and unforgettable. But spiny lobsters are not creatures of violence. They rely more on unity than aggression. When one is attacked, the others gather, antennae raised, shells pressed together into a moving barricade. A group of lobsters, though weaponless, can drive away predators much larger than themselves simply through solidarity and sound. There is safety in numbers and strength in rhythm. During their migrations, they form long lines that can stretch for hundreds of meters, crossing reefs and open plains. If one stumbles, the others pause. If one lags behind, the line adjusts. This choreography, repeated for millennia, has become one of the ocean's quiet wonders. It is pilgrimage without religion, discipline without command, the embodiment of order in chaos. Their lives follow the seasons of the current. In warm months they feed near the shore, among seagrass meadows and coral fields, eating small mollusks and detritus. As the water cools, they begin their descent to deeper waters, guided by invisible signals. Each migration is both survival and ritual, a reminder that even armour must move with the tide, and in that journey there is poetry. These are not mindless wanderers, but creatures of memory. Some researchers believe that young lobsters imprint on the magnetic field of their birthplace, carrying that signature within them for life. When they migrate, they are returning not just to safety but to origin, the way salmon return to rivers, or birds to skies they have never seen. Every line of spiny lobsters walking across the seafloor is a line drawn between past and future. In their home caves, before migration begins, they live in quiet communities. Each lobster knows its place, resting shoulder to shoulder with others. At dusk they emerge to feed, antennae crossing like the branches of a forest. They are territorial but never cruel. Disputes are settled through posture and sound, never blood. Their world is built on balance, defense through presence, not through pain. And yet their journey is not without peril. Predators follow their lines, groupers, octopuses, nurse sharks. Storm currents scatter them. Some never reach the deeper reefs, but those who do gather again in the shadows, forming new colonies among the rocks, a quiet victory carved from patience. When divers encounter them, they often describe the moment as surreal, dozens of glowing eyes reflecting light from a single beam, a wall of antennae that shifts gently, like reeds in the wind. And when the divers move closer, the lobsters raise their feelers and begin their rasping cry, not aggression, but warning. A reminder, we are many, we are ready, we remember the path. Their resilience has become legend among marine biologists. They can regrow lost limbs, survive severe injuries, and live for over 50 years in the wild. Some carry the scars of old battles, others shells thickened by time. Each one is a chronicle of endurance, proof that the ocean rewards those who move with it, not against it. At night, when the last rays of the sun vanish and only the blue darkness remains, the spiny lobsters march on. Their line glows faintly in the bioluminescent dust stirred by their legs. The sound of the reef fades behind them, replaced by the hush of deeper water. Ahead lies the unknown, but they move without hesitation. They always have. If you listen through a submersible microphone, you can hear their faint scraping, the soft tick of legs on sand, and occasionally the dry violin rasp of warning. It sounds almost like breathing, the earth exhaling through the sea, a harmony of shells and willpower. The spiny lobster's pilgrimage is one of the oldest processions on the planet. It is a ritual that predates humanity, one that continues whether we watch or not. No flags, no words, no songs, only the rhythm of survival played on armour and tide. And perhaps that is its lesson, that strength is not loud, and faith does not always face upward. Sometimes it crawls quietly along the bottom of the world, carrying memory in its shell and direction in its blood. So when you think of devotion, think of them, the spiny lobsters walking in endless file through the blue dusk, guided by nothing but the earth itself, each one a pilgrim, each step a prayer, marching not toward glory, but toward continuation. For in their silent journey across the seabed, they teach us that to endure is to believe, and that even the smallest travellers can move through eternity, one measured step at a time. In the warm lagoons of the Caribbean, among corals that glow like embers, there exists a society so tiny, so hidden, that even divers rarely notice it. It hums beneath sponges, under rocks, and in narrow tunnels woven through the reef. A miniature kingdom ruled by sound and loyalty. Here lives the red-banded snapping shrimp, Synalpheus regalis, a creature barely 5 centimetres long, but one of the few animals on Earth to live under a true queen. Its claws are striped in red and cream, the colours of coral blood and bone. Its eyes, small and black, glimmer like droplets of ink. And one of its claws, the snapper, is immense compared to the rest of its body, built to strike, to defend, and to speak. For these shrimps communicate not with movement or colour, but with sound. The sharp crack of a bubble collapsing underwater, the same physics that powers their pistol shrimp cousins. But the difference lies in their world. They do not live alone. They live together, hundreds in one sponge, side by side in a social hierarchy more reminiscent of bees and ants than any other crustacean. At the centre of this underwater fortress lives the queen. She's larger, her abdomen swollen with eggs, her life dedicated to reproduction. She rarely leaves her chamber, guarded by soldiers and workers that feed and clean her. Her scent, chemical signals drifting through the tunnels, keeps the colony in order, suppressing the reproduction of others. Only she lays eggs. The rest serve her. Scientists call this eusociality, a level of social organisation once thought to belong only to insects. And yet here, beneath the waves, an empire of shrimp thrives in quiet discipline. Each sponge is its own city, its porous walls riddled with tunnels, chambers and corridors. The shrimp carve and defend these spaces like architects. Workers maintain the entrances, clear debris, and circulate water through the sponge to keep oxygen flowing. Soldiers, with oversized claws, patrol the tunnels, listening for vibrations, a predator's fin, an invading shrimp from another colony. At the first tremor, the soldiers snap their claws, releasing shockwaves that echo through the sponge like a storm of miniature thunder. Dozens may snap at once, producing a crackling roar loud enough to confuse fish and drive enemies away. From above, a diver might hear it faintly, a fizzing murmur like the crackle of a distant fire. But inside, to the shrimp, it is the anthem of defense, a symphony of loyalty. The red-banded snapping shrimp's colonies can persist for years. Generations overlap. Daughters become workers, sons become guards, grandchildren inherit tunnels carved by ancestors. It is not chaos, but order sculpted in silence. Their sponge is both home and fortress, both cradle and coffin. If the sponge dies, the colony dies with it. So every shrimp works, endlessly, to keep it alive. The workers feed by filtering tiny bits of organic matter from the sponge's internal water flow. They share food mouth to mouth, gentle exchanges that sustain the community. When one shrimp grows old or weak, the others do not abandon it. They clean it, guard it, and when it finally dies, they recycle its body back into the sponge's nutrient cycle. Nothing is wasted. Everything returns. To an outsider, their world seems claustrophobic, a maze of tunnels no wider than a grain of rice. But within those walls is harmony. Each shrimp knows its role, its duty, its place. There is no chaos, no wandering, no rebellion. The queen's pheromones hold the colony in balance, reminding every heart to beat for the same purpose. And yet, power here is not cruel. The queen's reign is not tyranny, but necessity. Her body produces life, and her subjects ensure its survival. When she grows weak, she is replaced, not through murder or uprising, but through the quiet rhythm of inheritance. A new queen emerges from the workers, her body transforming as her chemistry changes. The colony continues, unbroken. It is astonishing to think that such order exists in such a small space, that beneath the chaos of waves and storms, a world of discipline thrives unseen. The red-banded snapping shrimp has built an empire smaller than a human palm, yet as intricate as any civilization above the waterline. Their power lies not in size, but in unity. One shrimp's snap is a whisper. 100 snaps together become a wall of sound that can drive predators away, even fish 1,000 times their mass. It is the physics of solidarity, strength multiplied through harmony. If you could shrink yourself down and crawl inside their sponge, you would hear a world alive with rhythm. Tiny feet brushing against sponge walls, faint currents flowing through pores, occasional bursts of sound like sparks in the dark. The queen, deep inside, glows faintly under bioluminescent plankton trapped in the sponge's skin. Around her, the workers move like living threads, weaving the colony's pulse. When night falls and predators like wrasses and crabs roam the reef, the entrances seal, the shrimps retreat into inner chambers, antennae entwined, bodies pressed close, the sound of the ocean fades. Inside, all that remains is the collective hum of life, hundreds of tiny hearts beating in rhythm, waiting for dawn. Sometimes, rival colonies wage wars. When a sponge grows too full, a group may split off, workers carrying young larvae to claim a new home nearby. But if another colony already occupies that sponge, battle erupts. Hundreds of shrimps swarm through tunnels, claws snapping, echoing through the reef like static. The victors claim the sponge, the defeated vanish into sand. It is war scaled down to whispers, brutal but brief. Yet for all their wars, their society is deeply peaceful. Most days are spent in quiet cooperation, cleaning, feeding, repairing. Each sound, each gesture, part of a pattern that has kept their kind alive for millions of years. When scientists discovered these colonies, they were stunned. A social structure so advanced, so complex, existing in a creature so small. It reshaped what we knew about cooperation, about the origins of community itself. The ocean, as always, had written its own version of civilization far below our sight. So when you think of the ocean's kings and queens, don't picture whales or sharks. Think of her, the queen shrimp, red-banded and watchful, lying deep within her living fortress. Around her, 1,000 silent servants tend the chambers, build walls of sound, and keep the heart of their world beating. Above them, waves crash, storms rage, continents shift. Below, in the dim coral light her kingdom endures, quiet, loyal, unseen. And if you could put your ear to the reef, you might hear it. A soft crackle, a pulse, the sound of an empire built on devotion, ruling not through force but through order. A realm where every life serves another, and where even the smallest subjects guard their queen as if the sea itself depended on her breath. The ocean is full of brilliance, scales that flash, shells that glow, colours that burn against the blue. But sometimes beauty hides in absence. The glass shrimp, Palemonetes varians, has no colour at all. It is a creature made of near nothingness, a body so clear that even its heartbeat can be seen pulsing faintly in the chest, like a drop of moonlight trembling inside water. If you hold one beneath a beam of light, it vanishes. Only a shimmer remains, as if you were holding a ripple, not a being. To be transparent in the sea is to be safe. No scales, no markings, no shadow for predators to follow. the glass shrimp drifts through eelgrass meadows and tidal pools, invisible among the reflections. It is a whisper of motion in a world of noise, living proof that invisibility can be its own kind of strength. While others fight or flee, the glass shrimp simply fades. Its body is delicate yet engineered with astonishing precision. Thin layers of chitin form walls thinner than a human hair, strong enough to bend light but not break it. The organs inside are arranged like floating threads, each suspended in clear fluid so perfectly refractive that the entire body disappears against its background. Even its blood, clear like rainwater, contains pigments only visible under ultraviolet light. To us, it is a ghost. To the shrimp itself, the world must be endless, every direction blending into itself. Glass shrimps live in both saltwater and freshwater, in the in-between spaces, estuaries, mangroves, and tidal lagoons where the sea breathes in and out each day. They rise with the tide and fall with it, carried like fragments of living glass. When the current moves, they move with it, turning invisibility into choreography. When still, they vanish completely. It is impossible to tell where the creature ends and the ocean begins. Their life, fragile as it seems, is filled with small miracles. They are scavengers, cleaners, gardeners of the shallows, feeding on decaying plants, microalgae, and detritus. By filtering waste, they keep the water clear, the invisible keeping the visible alive. They are what scientists call indicator species, meaning that their survival reflects the health of the entire ecosystem. When the water grows polluted, they die first. Their disappearance is the ocean's first whisper of distress. To lose them is to lose the sea's reflection. Their transparency, though perfect camouflage, demands a price. Without colour, they cannot signal warnings or courtship. Without shell pigments, their armour is fragile against sunlight. They must live in the dim, gentle places, under rocks, within grass, beneath roots. They are the monks of the shallows, devoted to stillness, shunning the open glare. When danger nears, a fish's shadow, a shifting current, the glass shrimp curls and springs backward with lightning speed, propelled by a flick of its tail. For a moment, the light bends around it, and then it's gone. Only the echo of motion remains. Predators are left striking at water, confused by an enemy that was never there. And yet, for all their invisibility, these shrimps live vibrant social lives. They form small groups, moving through seagrass in slow synchrony, each keeping a few centimeters of distance like dancers trained in the same choreography. They communicate through tiny waves of their antennae, subtle vibrations we cannot hear. At dusk, as the tide rolls in, the groups drift closer together, feeding under the faint gold of filtered light. If you swim through such a meadow, you might not see them, but you might feel the soft rustle of something alive brushing against your skin, the water trembling with hundreds of translucent bodies. When the females carry eggs, they look like they are holding strings of tiny pearls beneath their bellies, dozens of round, pale orbs that glow faintly green. Through the clear body you can see the embryos developing, eyes forming as dark dots, limbs unfolding like folded paper. Then, in a single night under a calm tide, the eggs hatch. Tiny larvae emerge and rise toward the surface, drawn by moonlight refracting through the waves. For a few days they drift as plankton, part of the floating dust of life. Then they settle and vanish again into the shallows, becoming once more invisible citizens of the sea. If light touches them at the right angle, their transparency turns into something else, a prism. Their shells refract sunlight into faint rainbows, shimmering along their edges. It lasts only a second, a flicker, and then it's gone. A reminder that invisibility does not mean emptiness, it means potential. Within what we cannot see, there are still colours waiting to appear. In aquariums, glass shrimps often serve as quiet companions, the unnoticed custodians of clarity. They sift through gravel, clean algae, and recycle food scraps, keeping the small world within the tank alive. People often overlook them, seeing only the bright fish that pass by. But if you watch long enough, you begin to sense their rhythm, the subtle flicks of legs, the transparent ballet unfolding in miniature. They become a metaphor for all the unseen labour that keeps beauty alive. Their fragility makes them sensitive to change, a shift in temperature, a trace of chlorine, a current too strong, and they perish. And yet, in the wild, they persist. They survive storms, salt changes, and predators by mastering the art of disappearance. Their survival strategy is not confrontation but gentleness, a quiet surrender that becomes resilience. It is strange, isn't it, how something so invisible can hold such quiet power. The glass shrimp never fights for notice. It never flaunts its form. It simply moves with the water, existing in grace so pure it escapes definition. It embodies the ocean's oldest wisdom, that strength and silence often flow together. At night, when moonlight filters through mangrove roots, the glass shrimp emerge from their shelters. The water becomes a mirror filled with ghosts of light. They swim slowly through it, their bodies refracting moonbeams, turning the dark tide into a slow-moving constellation. Each one is both visible and invisible, both presence and absence, a reminder that beauty doesn't always need to shine to be seen. And if you could listen closely, you might hear the sound of their movement, a faint, glassy hum, like the brushing of silk underwater. It is the ocean exhaling peace, the sea at its most delicate. So when your mind grows restless, think of them, the transparent ones, drifting softly through seagrass, breathing where no one looks, holding light without keeping it, teaching without words, the art of being here without taking space. Because the glass shrimp's greatest gift is not its invisibility, it is its quiet proof that the world's gentlest lives can still keep it clear. There are certain moments on a coral reef when time itself seems to slow. A moray eel, mouth open wide, floats in stillness. A grouper hovers, its fins frozen. And between their teeth, without fear or hesitation, walks a tiny creature dressed in red, white, and blue. The banded coral shrimp, Stenopus hispidus, the sea's little doctor. It is perhaps the most striking of all cleaner shrimps, wearing the colours of a flag stitched from coral light. Scarlet bands wrap its thin, armoured legs, bright white tufts of bristle decorate its joints, and its long, delicate antennae sweep through the water like silk ribbons. Its claws are not weapons but tools, fine, precise, made for grooming. When sunlight hits its shell, it glows like glass painted with fire. Everything about it seems designed to be seen, and yet, what makes this shrimp extraordinary is not its colour but its courage. While other animals hide, the banded coral shrimp waits in the open, perched on the coral ledges of the reef. There it builds what divers call a cleaning station, a place where fish come to have parasites removed and wounds tended. At dawn, it begins its ritual dance, waving its long antennae back and forth, a slow rhythm that can be seen from meters away. The message is universal, understood across species. Come, I will not harm you. And they come. Parrotfish, tangs, wrasses, even barracudas glide toward the signal. They hover patiently, allowing the shrimp to climb over their heads, gills, and mouths. With the precision of a surgeon, it picks off dead skin and parasites, brushing gently with its feathered claws. Sometimes it enters the gaping mouths of predators, disappearing between rows of sharp teeth, utterly unafraid. When the fish has been cleaned, it gives a small shake, a gesture of thanks, and swims away. The shrimp waves its antennae again, ready for the next patient. This mutual trust between hunter and healer feels almost impossible in the ocean's ruthless economy of hunger, but the reef runs on its own code, a network of peace woven by these tiny doctors. Their presence keeps the ecosystem healthy. Without them, parasites spread, fish weaken, and disease creeps through the coral's veins. The banded coral shrimp doesn't just survive in this world of predators, it keeps the world alive. Its partnership often comes in pairs. Male and female live together for life, sharing a burrow carved beneath a coral ledge. They defend it fiercely, not against the fish they clean, but against rival shrimps. Two shrimp couples rarely tolerate each other nearby. Each pair maintains its territory with precision, guarding it as a hospital, a home, and a temple. When danger approaches, they raise their claws and bristle their antennae, warning intruders with a posture of defiance rather than flight. Their love story is one of quiet dedication. When the female carries her eggs, hundreds of them, translucent and faintly green, the male guards her closely. He helps fan water across the clutch, keeping oxygen flowing. When she molts, shedding her old shell to grow anew, he stands beside her, vigilant, protecting her soft, vulnerable body until the armor hardens again. It is a partnership of patience and loyalty, mirrored in the balance they bring to the reef around them. Under ultraviolet light, their bodies shimmer with faint iridescence, each band glowing like a neon scar under the blue. Divers often compare them to lanterns hanging from the coral's edge, small, bright, and immovable. They seem delicate, but in truth they are enduring. They can live up to 3 years, surviving storms, temperature shifts, and currents that would scatter lesser creatures. Their burrows, once built, may host generations, the same spot serving as clinic and home for decades. When observed through underwater microphones, the reef around them hums with sound. The crackle of pistol shrimp, the hum of crabs, the pulse of fish fins. But near the banded coral shrimp, the noise softens. Fish approach gently as if entering a chapel. They hover silently, letting the shrimp do its work. This unspoken peace, predator allowing prey to live, may last for hours each day. Then, when the shrimp retreats into its burrow at night, the reef resumes its chorus of chaos. Its red and white pattern is more than decoration, it is communication. The colours warn would-be predators that the shrimp offers a service, not a threat. It's a form of honest signalling, a pattern evolution has painted into its shell to remind the ocean that trust can be visible, and somehow that trust is honoured. Even species that have never met a banded coral shrimp before seem to recognise its meaning. In the universal language of the sea, red and white mean peace. But the life of a healer is never simple. In the wild, storms can destroy the coral homes they depend on. Pollution clouds the water, killing both the shrimp and the fish it cleans. And when the reef suffers, so too does this small doctor's kingdom. In aquariums, it continues its rituals, cleaning the hands of divers, the shells of snails, the glass walls of its enclosure, as though still serving a world that has vanished. It does not know how to stop healing. To watch it work is to feel something almost human. It shows no judgment, no hesitation, no preference between predator or prey. Every creature receives its care equally. There is no hierarchy, no fear, only the simple, enduring instinct to mend. And perhaps that is why it feels sacred, because it reminds us of mercy in a world that has forgotten how to slow down. When night falls, the reef transforms. The coral polyps open like flowers, and the shrimp emerges again, antennae glowing faintly in the darkness. Bioluminescent plankton swirl around its body like dust in a cathedral of black water. The banded coral shrimp walks between them, slow and deliberate, as if blessing the coral with each step. Some fish, half asleep, still drift by, and it continues its work quietly. Even in dreams, the healer does not rest. It is easy to overlook such a small being amid the spectacle of the sea. But if the ocean has a pulse, the banded coral shrimp is part of its heartbeat. It reminds the vast chaotic blue that compassion is still a form of power. So the next time you picture the reef, the swirl of colour, the surge of life, imagine, beneath it all, a small red and white figure waving its antennae like a flag of peace. Unarmed, unafraid, unseen by most, and yet, because of it, the reef breathes easier. Because of it, predators pause. Because of it, there is harmony. The banded coral shrimp asks for nothing but trust, and the ocean, vast, violent, ancient, grants it every day. A single gesture of peace, repeated endlessly, until it becomes the rhythm of survival itself. The surface ocean dances with colour and noise, sunlight breaking into prisms, shoals of silver fish glittering like mirrors. But far below, past the last reach of light, lies another world, a kingdom without dawn or dusk. Here, the water presses like a cathedral of silence, the temperature near freezing, the darkness absolute. And in this endless night moves a creature older than memory, the deep-sea lobster. It is not red, like the lobsters served on plates above. Down here, that colour would be meaningless. Instead, it is black-blue, the colour of midnight itself, a sheen that swallows light rather than reflecting it. Its body is armour forged for pressure, the exoskeleton thick and smooth, covered in grooves that help distribute the crushing weight of the deep. At depths between 200 and 800 metres, this creature lives among rocks, mud, and the bones of the ocean floor. Every breath, every movement is a negotiation with gravity and time. Its eyes are small, pale, almost useless, reduced to sensing only faint glimmers of bioluminescence. It sees with its antennae, those long, delicate wires that sweep through the dark like blind fingers. Each antenna vibrates with subtle signals, pressure changes, currents, electric fields, creating a map not of light, but of motion. To the deep-sea lobster, the world is a web of vibrations, each echo a message. Where others would be blind, it reads the dark like scripture. Its claws, though smaller than its shallow water cousins, are refined instruments, one serrated for cutting, one broad for crushing. They open and close in silence, sculpting survival from the invisible. It hunts worms, snails, small fish, and carrion, anything soft enough to break and slow enough to catch. Sometimes it feeds on the remains of creatures that have drifted down from the bright world above, the marine snow of dead plankton and forgotten lives. Down here nothing is wasted, even loss becomes nourishment. There is something almost holy about the patience of this place. Food may come once a week, once a month, once a season. So the lobster waits. It burrows into silt, folds its antennae across its chest and sleeps with its eyes open. Hours blur into centuries. The ocean floor is littered with stillness, yet every creature here listens, to currents, to silence, to the faint tremors of existence. When disturbed, the deep-sea lobster can move with startling speed, kicking backward with its tail in a sudden burst, a blue shadow streaking through the void. Then it settles again, vanishing into the dark. Its camouflage is perfect, a body sculpted not to be seen. Even bioluminescent light seems to slide off its shell, as though it were made of night itself. Scientists exploring the deep often glimpse them for only seconds, their shapes caught in the edges of submersible lights, claws raised, eyes glowing faintly like twin pearls. They are shy but fearless, uncurious but aware, as if centuries of isolation have taught them the art of stillness. In footage they look unreal, mechanical almost, too perfect in symmetry. But when they move, they reveal the truth. The sea's oldest grace is not in motion, but in patience. Their world is full of quiet miracles. Vents releasing heat from the Earth's crust create pockets of warmth where they gather, drawn by the faint promise of life. Sometimes, dozens of lobsters crowd around such vents, their bodies forming a circle in the dark, a congregation worshipping the warmth. In the faint orange glow of volcanic gas, their shells gleam like old bronze. There are no hierarchies here, no colonies or queens, only coexistence, the unspoken pact of those who have survived long enough to understand that peace is cheaper than hunger. They molt rarely, perhaps once every few years. When the time comes, they withdraw to the deepest crevices, cracking open their old armour and sliding free like ghosts shedding bodies. For hours afterward, their new shell is soft, translucent, almost luminous, a fragile version of themselves that glows faintly in the dark. It's a dangerous moment. Without armour, they're exposed to every danger the deep can offer. But the darkness protects them. No eyes, no light, no witness, only transformation. And when the new shell hardens, the lobster returns to its wandering, stronger, larger, patient once more. Some species of deep-sea lobsters have been found with scars on their claws, signs of battles fought centuries apart. Their lives can stretch for half a century or more, each decade written into the thickness of their armour. To touch one is to touch time itself, the slow heartbeat of a creature that has seen the rise and fall of continents from below. They are solitary but not lonely. The ocean floor is not empty. It is full of presences too quiet for sound. The hum of currents, the drip of sediment, the pulse of vent heat. All of it composes a kind of hymn, and the deep-sea lobster is its silent monk. It does not pray. It simply exists in perfect awareness, each motion deliberate, each breath a form of listening. For humans, the deep sea feels like death, cold, airless, crushing. But to the lobster, it is serenity. It has no need for light, for colour, for noise. Its peace comes from pressure, its rhythm from patience. It is, in a strange way, the ocean's memory made flesh, unchanged while the world above shifts and burns. If you could descend there, the pressure would crush your bones in seconds. And yet this creature, smaller than your hand, thrives effortlessly. It does not resist the weight. It yields to it, becomes part of it. That is the secret of the deep. Strength through surrender. The lobster's body is not fighting the ocean. It is built from the same principles that move the tides. Sometimes, when explorers send down cameras, they record strange flashes, faint, ghostly blue flickers that move across the lobster's shell. It isn't bioluminescence, it's reflection, traces of light bending and twisting around the curvature of its armour, like whispers of remembered sunlight. It looks as if the lobster carries the echo of the surface with it, a memory of a place it has never seen. At night, though night has no meaning here, the currents rise from the abyssal plains, bringing new scents, new whispers. The lobster stirs, climbs from its burrow, and begins its slow patrol through the stones. Each step leaves a mark that the tide erases instantly. In the absence of history, only repetition remains, and yet that repetition is life. The deep-sea lobster doesn't build, doesn't sing, doesn't shine. It simply endures, quietly, endlessly, perfectly. It is a shape carved by pressure, a rhythm written by gravity. It doesn't need to be seen to be real. It doesn't need to move to have purpose. It just is. And maybe that's what makes it beautiful. In a world obsessed with light, it is content to live in the dark. In a sea filled with noise, it speaks through silence. The deep-sea lobster is the heartbeat of the abyss, the soundless pulse that reminds the earth that life, even at its coldest and darkest, never truly stops breathing. There are places on this planet where the ocean bleeds fire, where the seafloor splits open and black chimneys rise, pouring out clouds of water heated to 400 degrees Celsius, heavy with metal and poison. These are the hydrothermal vents, wounds in the Earth's crust glowing with volcanic breath. Here, the laws of life should end, and yet, they don't. Here lives a creature that sees without eyes, farms without light, and turns death into nourishment. Its name is Remicarus exoculata, the blind shrimp of fire. It gathers in colonies so dense that they look like living curtains. Thousands of white bodies packed around the black chimneys, each one shimmering faintly in the rising heat. To the camera of a deep-sea submersible, the scene looks like something from another planet. Towers of smoke and flame surrounded by clouds of moving life, as if the sea itself were alive and breathing. In the middle of this hellscape, the shrimps thrive. They do not burn. They do not flee. They dance. They are pale, not pure white, but a soft ivory glow, as though the heat itself had bleached them of all colour. Their eyes, if you can call them that, are gone. Instead, a patch of light-sensitive cells rests on their backs, detecting the faint glow of the vents. It is sight transformed into feeling. Where humans see through contrast, they see through heat, through the rhythm of radiation. To them, the vent is not danger, but home. Their bodies are covered in fine, hair-like structures called setae, which serve as gardens for bacteria. These bacteria live by chemosynthesis, feeding on the sulfur and metals in the vent water. In exchange, they feed the shrimp. The shrimp waves its claws in the hot current, cultivating the microbes the way a farmer tends crops. When hungry, it scrapes them off and eats them. It is a garden of fire and sulfur, tended by creatures that have never seen the sun. There are no plants here, no photosynthesis, no light, only chemistry. And yet entire ecosystems bloom around these shrimp colonies. Giant tube worms, blind crabs, ghostly snails, all feeding on bacteria born of poison. The Rimicaris shrimp is their foundation, their quiet architect. Without it, the vent would be just a scar. With it, the scar becomes a city. In the crushing blackness 2.5 kilometers below the surface, there is no sound but the hiss of boiling water and the whisper of movement. Each shrimp holds its place in the swarm, brushing against others as it waves its claws. Together, they form a shimmering mass that breathes as one, a living wall against oblivion. Their movements create gentle currents that circulate water through the colony, feeding the bacteria and cooling the outer layers of the vent. The closer you go, the more intense the colour becomes. White at the edges, grey near the core, and dark near the mouth of the vent where heat ripples distort reality. It is both beauty and horror, a ballet at the edge of annihilation. Their survival depends on a delicate balance, Too far from the vent and the bacteria starve. Too close and the shrimp die in seconds. They live forever between those two extremes, where the water is warm enough to sustain life, but not hot enough to destroy it. It is a thin line, narrower than the width of a hand, and they walk it with perfect grace. Every few minutes, an individual shrimp will crawl closer to the vent, risking its shell to collect fresh microbes. When its body begins to darken and the heat becomes too much, it retreats. Others take its place. In this choreography of survival, there is no chaos, no panic, only rhythm, the slow breathing of a civilization built on precision. Their reproduction is a mystery. Females carry eggs in small clusters, protecting them from the currents. When the larvae hatch, they drift away into the cold abyss, thousands of meters of darkness without food or direction. Most will die, but the survivors, guided by chemical signals, find their way back to the heat, to the same vents where their ancestors stood. There, they settle, grow, and join the eternal congregation. In a world without seasons or stars, their only calendar is the heartbeat of the earth. When explorers first discovered Rimicaris exoculata in 1986, they were silent for a long time. The cameras showed what no one expected: life flourishing not in sunlight, but in shadow, not on oxygen, but on poison. The shrimp seemed to redefine what it means to be alive. They were not exceptions to the rule of biology. They were proof that life itself bends, reshapes, survives anywhere it must. To watch them now is to witness defiance. They do not crawl or swim like their shallow water cousins. They hover, using the faint updrafts of vent water to remain suspended in the glow. Their shells flicker with metallic highlights, copper, silver, blue, as if remembering the minerals that gave them birth. When one moves, the rest ripple in response, like flames shifting with a breeze. They are the living embodiment of paradox, life born from destruction, purity sustained by poison. In the deep-sea silence, they form colonies that stretch for meters, each shrimp no more than a finger long, each performing its small ritual. Together, they create one of the largest microbial farming operations on Earth, a system that has lasted for millions of years, untouched by sunlight, unbothered by extinction. To them, the vent is not an anomaly. It is the world. The surface, with its blue sky and gentle tides, would be the alien landscape. If you could place your ear against the steel hull of a submersible, you might hear it, the faint crackle of the vents, the hiss of superheated water cooling instantly into vapour, and beneath it the whisper of countless tiny legs, brushing, tending, cultivating. It is the sound of persistence. The ocean breathing through its deepest scars. Some scientists believe that life on Earth may have begun in places like this, in the crucibles of heat and mineral where chemistry first learned to imitate consciousness. If that is true, then Rimicaris exoculata is not just another shrimp. It is a descendant of the planet's first prayer. Each time it waves its claws through the vent plume, it reenacts the birth of life itself, turning darkness into sustenance, turning heat into harmony. When the vents quiet and die, as they sometimes do, the shrimp disappear with them, leaving behind empty chimneys and silence. But somewhere else on the seafloor, another wound opens, another flame rises, and they return. As if following the pulse of the earth itself, they are reborn with every eruption. In that endless cycle of fire and silence, the Rimicaris shrimp continues its work, sightless, fearless, graceful in the heat that would kill everything else. It is not just surviving, it is reminding the planet how to begin again. Because every time the world breaks open, every time the darkness seems final, something small and luminous crawls back to the fire and teaches it how to breathe. If the deep sea has its monks and the coral reef its doctors, then the scampy shrimp is its knight. It moves through the twilight waters of the continental shelf, between 200 and 700 meters deep, where sunlight fades but the dark has not yet taken hold. Here, amid soft mud plains and slow currents, the scampi carves its fortress, a burrow of tunnels and chambers reinforced with silk-like mucus that glues the sediment together. It is both home and citadel, a safehold against the wide, hungry world. The Norway lobster, as scientists call it, Nephrops norvegicus, is no true lobster at all, but a shrimp wearing armour, slender, elegant and long-clawed. Its shell glows faintly orange-pink, a warm ember against the grey of the deep seabed. When light hits it, it looks almost translucent, as if carved from coral glass. Its eyes reflect a cold emerald green, catching even the faintest glow from the surface far above. It is a creature of dusk, too deep for day, too shallow for night, and in that in-between realm, it thrives. The scampi shrimp is meticulous. Each burrow is engineered with precision. An entrance for hunting, a chamber for rest, a tunnel for escape. The walls are smooth, reinforced by constant cleaning. Every few hours the shrimp emerges, brushes the opening clear with its antennae, then fans the water to ventilate the tunnel. It is not simply living, it is maintaining order. Its burrow, like a castle, reflects its character: quiet, disciplined, solitary. Its claws are long and graceful, curved like the horns of a dragon. One is slightly larger than the other, used for seizing prey. The smaller one works like a scalpel. They are tools, not weapons, instruments of efficiency. When hunting, the scampi waits just inside its burrow, half hidden, antennae sweeping the water for vibrations. It can sense the flutter of a worm meters away, the faint movement of a small fish drifting past. Then, in an instant, it lunges, claws flashing, dust rising, the victim gone. A puff of sand, a flick of the tail, and the night retreats into its chamber to dine. It kills swiftly, cleanly, with no waste. Every motion serves purpose. But for all its precision, the scampi lives in constant tension between vigilance and vulnerability. Its predators, cod, monkfish, octopus, know the rhythm of its life. They wait for dusk when the scampi ventures out to feed. To survive, it must balance hunger with caution. A step too far from the burrow, and it vanishes into a mouth of teeth. So the shrimp learns restraint. It measures every risk, every movement, a master of patience. Scientists who study them describe their behavior as almost strategic. They share the seafloor with others, but maintain invisible boundaries. Each burrow lies just beyond claw's reach of the next, respecting unseen borders. When two scampi meet, they raise their claws and posture, a slow, ritualized duel of warning. They rarely fight to harm. They fight to preserve distance. Even their aggression has elegance. Inside the burrow, life follows a rhythm older than the tides. The shrimp spends much of its time cleaning, grooming, repairing walls. Sometimes a female will share the burrow, carrying eggs under her abdomen like clusters of golden beads. She rarely leaves. The male guards the entrance. When the larvae hatch, they drift upward toward the surface, carried by currents to warmer waters. There they live for months, invisible among plankton, before sinking again to the dark plains below, returning to the same silence that birthed them. For the scampi shrimp, home is not a place. It is a process, the act of rebuilding, maintaining, protecting. If its burrow collapses, it begins again without complaint. If storms rearrange the seabed, it digs anew. Its devotion is not to comfort, but to continuity. And in that endless repetition, it finds purpose. It is also a messenger of the deep. Because scampi live only in clean, oxygen-rich mud, their presence signals the health of the ocean floor. Where pollution spreads, they vanish. Where they thrive, the seabed breathes easily. Fishermen who trawl for them know this. The nets that return full of scampi are not just signs of profit. They are proof that the water is still alive. Yet, their world is shrinking. Modern trawlers drag heavy nets across the seafloor, tearing through burrows like ploughs through temples. Thousands die unseen, crushed in the silt. Still, those that remain continue to rebuild, digging again the moment the sea grows quiet. They never abandon the act of creation, even when creation itself seems futile. In that persistence, they resemble the coral, the anemone, the tide, beings that exist by refusing to give up. Divers who encounter them often describe the experience as strangely moving. Unlike most crustaceans, the scampi doesn't flee immediately. It studies. It raises its claws in calm warning, its eyes glowing in the beam of light, as if asking the intruder to respect the boundary. And if left undisturbed, it lowers them again, continuing its work as though the visitor were simply another current. There is dignity in that stillness, a warrior's courtesy, offered even to giants. When night falls, the mud plains come alive with faint blue light. Bioluminescent worms drift past, and the scampy's shell reflects their glow. It steps from its burrow, antennae glimmering like drawn swords. Its eyes mirror the stars above the sea it will never see, and in that moment it is both myth and truth, the night of the abyss, patrolling a realm of silence. What does it mean to live your entire life underground, alone, unseen, surrounded by the slow decay of the world? For the scampy shrimp, perhaps it means mastery over solitude. It does not need to conquer to endure. It does not need to shine to exist. Its armour, its discipline, its burrow. These are prayers whispered to the sea. Let me keep the order of the dark. Each tunnel it digs becomes a story carved into the seabed, a record of patience, a signature of presence. And when the currents erase those tunnels, when storms flatten the mud and silence the echo of claws, it begins again. Because that is what the night does. It rebuilds the peace. At dawn, when the first silver threads of light reach the shallows above, the scampi is already home. Its claws rest folded, its breathing slow. Outside, the world brightens. Inside, darkness hums softly, steady and safe. The burrow walls glisten faintly, damp with the pulse of the tide. And from within, the shrimp listens to the muted heartbeat of the ocean pressing against its door. The scampy shrimp is not a conqueror. It is a keeper of silence, of structure, of the unseen peace that holds the sea together. It does not shout its existence. It simply endures it, quietly magnificent. A night, not of war, but of order, and in its endless patience, in its orange armour glowing softly against the grey, it reminds the deep that strength can also be gentle, and that even in darkness one can still live with grace. In the vast theatres of the sea, most creatures depend on tides and waves to survive, but some live not in the ocean at all. They dwell in salt. In still, mirror-like lakes where the sun burns harder than mercy, and the air tastes of minerals, there exists a creature so small you could hold thousands in a single palm, and yet it carries a secret older than the mountains that surround it. It is the brine shrimp, Artemia salina, a survivor of extinction, an alchemist of salt, a timeless memory that refuses to die. Its story begins where water ends, where rivers dry into dust and the sea retreats, leaving behind shimmering plains of crystal. In these harsh, hypersaline lakes, Utah's Great Salt Lake, Africa's Lake Natron, or the flaming pink lagoons of the Yucatan, the brine shrimp builds its fragile empire. Here, fish cannot live. Even bacteria struggle. But for the brine shrimp, this is paradise. It thrives in solitude, untouched by predators, its body glowing pale orange against the rose-coloured water. To see them from afar is to glimpse a living mirage. Billions drift together in slow, swirling clouds, rising and sinking with the wind and light. They move like dust caught in sunlight, a shimmer of movement, a rhythm without sound. And yet, these tiny beings hold within them one of the greatest survival mechanisms in the animal kingdom, the cyst. When drought comes, and the lakes evaporate into dry basins of salt, the brine shrimp does not die. The females lay eggs, not ordinary ones, but encysted embryos, each wrapped in a tough capsule that seals out time itself. These cysts can survive decades, even centuries, without water or oxygen. They endure temperatures that would boil most life, and cold that freezes seas solid. When rain returns, even after years of absence, the salt dissolves, the lake breathes again, and the cysts awaken. Tiny forms unfold, beating invisible legs in perfect synchronicity, and the world restarts. They are, in every sense, the sea's reincarnation. This ability, to suspend life between death and birth, is called cryptobiosis. It is one of nature's quiet miracles. Inside the cyst, every heartbeat, every thought, every molecule of motion stops. Metabolism falls to near zero. Time no longer passes. And yet life remains, paused like a song waiting for its next note. When the right conditions return, warmth, water and light, the shrimp reawakens as if no time has passed at all. For humans, this idea inspired dreams, time travel, stasis, immortality. For the shrimp, it is simply routine. When hatched, they are barely visible. translucent specks flickering beneath the surface. They swim upside down, their 11 pairs of legs moving like tiny fans, creating shimmering ripples that push them forward. They breathe through their feet, drawing oxygen directly from the salty water, and feed by filtering microscopic algae. They are the caretakers of their own world, turning light, salt, and simplicity into motion. As they grow, their colour deepens to orange or pink, a result of carotenoid pigments, the same molecules that paint flamingos. Indeed, flamingos owe their famous hue to these shrimp, consuming them by the thousands in shallow salt lakes. In a way, every flamingo feather is a memory of Artemia, a gift from a creature the size of a grain of rice. But their importance stretches far beyond beauty. For centuries, people have harvested brine shrimp as food for fish and birds, as a symbol of resilience, even as a lesson in patience. In laboratories, scientists study their cysts to understand how life can survive the vacuum of space. NASA once carried them aboard spacecraft to test whether Earth's creatures could endure cosmic radiation. The cysts returned, still alive. In salt, the shrimp had built a bridge between worlds. In the 1960s, toy companies discovered them too. Packaged in bright envelopes under the name sea monkeys, they became the childhood pets of a generation. Tiny miracles that seemed to appear from dust. Few knew that behind the marketing whimsy was an organism whose lineage predates the dinosaurs. Children watched in wonder as the eggs bloomed into motion, unaware that what they were seeing was resurrection itself. Their simplicity belies sophistication. Each shrimp can sense changes in light and salinity through fine sensory hairs on its body. When conditions worsen, it switches reproduction modes, from live birth to dormant cysts, from speed to stillness. Every decision, every transformation is encoded in instinct. Evolution's poetry written in the language of endurance. The water they live in is often beautiful but deadly. At midday, sunlight turns the salt lakes into mirrors of fire. At night, they cool into deserts of glass. The shrimp float in this silence, their delicate bodies reflecting the moon, their movements slow and rhythmic, a meditation written in salt. If you stand by such a lake at dusk, you might hear nothing but wind. But beneath the surface, billions of these creatures move together, their tiny limbs stirring the water like the faint ticking of a clock that never truly stops. For the brine shrimp, time is not linear. It is circular, a pattern of stillness and awakening, of drought and rain, of silence and song. Generations blur together. A mother's cyst may not hatch until her great-grandchildren are gone, reborn in a cycle that confuses even science. They are the ocean's archivists, preserving the rhythm of life in shells smaller than dust. And so, in a world that measures progress by motion, the brine shrimp offers a different truth. That survival sometimes means stopping. That wisdom can mean waiting. That there is no shame in stillness when stillness is preparation for the next dawn. When the rains come again, and the salt crust cracks open with soundless applause, the first drops awaken the cysts buried for decades. The lake blushes pink as they rise, one by one toward the light. Wings unfold, hearts beat again, and the mirror of the desert becomes the cradle of life. No trumpet announces it, no storm celebrates it, only the quiet return of creatures who have been here longer than memory. The brine shrimp asks for nothing, no coral, no current, no reef. It carries its world inside its body, its future inside its past. It teaches us that eternity can be small, that immortality can live in a grain of dust. So when you next see a salt lake shimmering like glass beneath the sun, remember, beneath that stillness life is waiting. Not gone, not lost, not forgotten, just patient. For somewhere beneath that crust of salt, in a silence older than history, 1,000 tiny hearts sleep, ready to wake when the world remembers how to reign again. In the soft light of a still aquarium, there is a flicker of red that moves like a drifting ember. It is not fire, but life, small, quiet, persistent. The cherry shrimp, Neocaridina davidi, glides across a leaf, its translucent shell glowing crimson against the green world around it. It carries no weapon, no defense beyond beauty. And yet, in tanks and rivers, in glass bowls and wild streams, it has found a way to turn fragility into peace. Unlike its fierce cousins of the reef or its blind kin of the abyss, the cherry shrimp lives close to human breath. It belongs to freshwater, in the slow streams of Taiwan, in shaded ponds where moss grows thick and quiet. Where others build cities of coral or fortresses of mud, it builds only stillness. It is a gardener of silence. Its body is small, barely 2 centimeters long, but perfect in proportion. Every joint gleams like lacquer, every movement smooth and careful. Its red hue, sometimes pale as rose, sometimes dark as bloodstone, depends on mood and health. When calm, it glows softly. When frightened, it fades to near transparency, a living watercolour. It is a creature of tone, not colour, emotion translated into pigment. Underwater, it is never still for long. It climbs through forests of green algae, scraping gently with fan-like claws. Each motion keeps the tank alive, polishing stones, cleaning glass, pruning the invisible. In aquariums, it is called the janitor of calm, because it purifies by touch alone. Where cherry shrimps thrive, water clears. Where they vanish, the world begins to cloud. At night, when the light fades, they gather beneath the leaves. Some rest on pebbles, antennae swaying like threads of silk. Others continue their quiet patrols, cleaning, grazing, never hurried. To watch them is to watch patience made visible, the art of moving without sound. In their slowness, they restore balance. In their silence, they keep time. Females carry eggs beneath their abdomen, small green spheres that shimmer like jade. She fans them constantly, ensuring oxygen flows. For nearly a month she guards them, brushing away debris, shifting her posture as if cradling invisible music. When they hatch, the young are exact replicas, miniature ghosts of their mother, already grazing, already working. There is no chaos in their birth, no violence, no abandonment, only continuity, the slow pulse of care handed from one still body to the next. In the wild, cherry shrimps live in groups. They are communal, but not crowded. Each respects the other's space, drifting close only when food is abundant or shelter scarce. When threatened, they scatter, vanishing into moss as if the colour red had simply dissolved. Minutes later they return, resuming their quiet duties, as if fear itself were just another ripple to pass through. Their red coloration is a paradox, bright enough to draw attention, yet somehow never gaudy. It speaks not of aggression, but of calm confidence, the colour of warmth rather than warning. In tanks filled with restless fish, their presence slows the mood, bringing the illusion of still water even when currents stir. Many aquarists say they bring peace to the tank, perhaps because they teach by example, how to exist without claiming, how to glow without burning. They molt often, shedding their thin shells like old dreams. Each time they hide until the new armour hardens. For a few hours their bodies are soft and translucent, the red fading into pale coral. In that vulnerability they rest, suspended between weakness and renewal. Then quietly they emerge again, gleaming brighter than before. It is an endless ritual of transformation, proof that growth is never without risk. The cherry shrimp's life is short, 1 to 2 years at best, but within that time it leaves no chaos behind, no wound in the water. Even in death, it returns to the ecosystem it tended, becoming nourishment for the plants it once cleaned. It is the perfect guest in existence, graceful, useful, and kind. Under macro lenses, its body reveals an unexpected intricacy, veins of white running beneath the red like marble, gills pulsing softly, eyes that shimmer with flecks of gold. Its heart beats 200 times a minute, yet nothing in its manner seems hurried. It moves with the composure of something that has already accepted the brevity of its life. It knows only the present, each leaf, each grain of sand, each reflection in the glass. If the mantis shrimp was thunder, and the yeti lobster was faith, then the cherry shrimp is stillness. The final note after the song, the red ember after the fire. It represents the softest face of survival, not through might, but through meaning. It thrives by doing what the ocean has always known, to give more than it takes. Sometimes, at night, when the room around the aquarium is dark and the only light is the one within, you can see them, glowing softly, drifting slowly through the miniature forest. They look like lanterns caught in a dream, moving through reflections of stars, and if you listen close enough, You might imagine the faint rhythm of water against glass, the heartbeat of something smaller than breath but older than sound. That is the gift of the cherry shrimp. It doesn't teach with grandeur or spectacle. It teaches by being, by reminding us that peace, like life, is a work of small gestures repeated endlessly, by cleaning, by moving, by glowing quietly in the dark. So tonight, as you listen to the soft hum of water and the faint rustle of bubbles, imagine them, the scarlet gardeners, the caretakers of calm, tending their miniature world beneath the sleeping house. Each step a brushstroke, each molt a rebirth, each ripple a prayer that the world stays clean, still, and kind. And as you drift towards sleep, let their rhythm guide you, slow, patient, without resistance. Because somewhere, even now, in a glass bowl or a silent stream, a cherry shrimp glides through its living garden, glowing softly, endlessly, a tiny ember that never burns out. Somewhere in the dark a single bubble rises, a sound, click, soft as a heartbeat, echoes through a reef that never truly sleeps. A claw closes, a shell shifts, a tunnel breathes, and life, in all its patience, continues. Tonight, we have drifted with the architects of the tide, with the ones who dig, clean, heal, and glow, the ones too small to be remembered, but too persistent to disappear. They are the quiet engineers of the sea, building the world one grain of sand at a time. Every click, every shimmer, every whisper beneath the waves is a reminder that peace is not silence, it is rhythm, that beauty is not spectacle, it is balance, and that even the smallest lives, the shrimp, the plankton, the unseen gardeners of the deep, hold up the weight of oceans far larger than themselves. The sea doesn't rest, but it never rushes. It exhales through their work, through their patience. In every reef and salt lake, in every vent of fire and cloud of brine, these creatures keep the planet breathing. They do not roar like whales or rule like sharks. They serve, and in that service there is holiness. So when the surface world grows too loud, remember the ocean's slower heartbeat, the world beneath words, where creation hums quietly in salt and shadow. Let it calm you, let it remind you that you too are made of small rhythm, of breaths, of pulses, of kindnesses unseen. And when you finally drift into sleep, imagine them still at work. The red one cleaning glass, the blind one farming fire, the ghost one swaying with seaweed, and the coral doctors tending wounds older than storms. The ocean keeps its promises through them, and they, through their small, eternal labours, keep the earth alive. Sleep now. The sea is still working, quietly, endlessly, to keep the world gentle for you.